She asks how someone could love someone who put their mom in a coma, and yeah, I agree. I have the same fucking question, my guy. Hi, thank you so much for giving a brand new booktuber a chance. My name is Shelby and this is Shelby Reads. I'm a femme lesbian who's been with my wonderful butch wife for a very long time, but we've been married since 2020. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear more about sapphic books. It really helps the channel. We're up to like 50 something. Yay! Thank you guys. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Today we're going to be discussing the sapphic dark romance book, Queen Takes Rose by Katee Robert. This is the 6th book in the Wicked Villains series. I don't think you need to read the other ones because I only read this book and I did just fine. This is clearly a Maleficent x Aurora Disney-inspired smutty book. I'm now going to read the synopsis of the book to you. Once upon a time, I made a deal with the devil. It turns out I like playing in the dark. Over the years, I've become someone I'm proud of, someone dangerous. I'll never be as dangerous as Malone, though. She's one of the most feared leaders in Carver City, and her reputation is more than earned. Years ago, we had a single night together, and she's ignored me ever since. Imagine my surprise to discover she scheduled me for the final 2 weeks of my contract. Maybe I should be afraid. Everyone else fears Malone. Instead, all I feel is anticipation. It's time to balance the scales once and for all. The villains aren't the only ones in Carver City a person should be wary of crossing. Sometimes the prettiest flower hides the deadliest poison. ... So, before we get into the meat, the author only gave one trigger warning. Content warning: this book contains depiction of the death of a comatose parent, in parentheses, mother. This may be triggering for some readers. Literally it. This tiny thing. That's it for trigger warnings. I'm gonna give you some more. Sexual content, including primarily BDSM/kink, you have been warned. Death of a parent, grief, cursing, death, murder, toxic relationship, violence, terminal illness, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual violence, confinement, medical content, medical trauma, alcohol, adult minor relationship, trafficking, war, gun violence, confinement, sex work. I say confinement twice, sorry. I don't know why. Confinement really overall doesn't have a lot to do with this plot, just so you know. Also, I would love to take my glasses off so it doesn't do this stupid thing, but like then I will be nauseous. I'm so sorry. As I said, this book has a lot of BDSM/kink stuff. If you are not comfortable with that, leave. I will not be going into full detail because it's a book. You can read the book if you want the smut, but this is YouTube and we can't share all the smut, okay? Before we begin, I want to go over my disclaimers. Number 1, this review is not for the author or friends, family, or stans of the author's work. Number 2, this review will contain spoilers. I will be going chapter by chapter. It will have pretty much all the spoilers you can imagine, except for some of the sex scenes. Number 3, I'm not bashing sapphic books. I think we deserve amazing sapphic books and mediocre sapphic books, but everyone is entitled to their opinion and no work is above critique and review. Number 4, I understand that dark romance is cathartic for some readers. I understand that just because you're reading extreme things doesn't mean you want those things to happen to you in real life. I do think that there is plenty of criticism for dark romance though as a whole, and I think that we should be allowed to talk about it. And also, with that being said, I don't hate this book for once, so like, this is not completely a rant review. Completely. There's plenty about this book I don't like, but there's a lot that I do, which is pretty unusual for this channel. I will tell you what's going on with this book right now, okay? The world building, ass. The plot, ass. The character development / characters in general, ass. The smut is god tier. I mean that so sincerely. Will this help? We're gonna try to fly without my glasses for a while and see how long I can take before I'm dying inside, okay? Okay. Before we get to the meat of the story, I have to tell you that this very much operates like Kingdom Hearts rules. Everything is confusing and we don't know why Sephiroth from Final Fantasy is here. And just like Final Fantasy, we don't know why things are happening, but we're having a great time. I can't do it, fam. I'm gonna have a migraine if I do that. I'm so sorry about the stupid glasses reflections. Chapter 1, Aurora. We are starting off this book in a very rough place because Aurora is pulling her mother off of life support after her mother has been on life support for 20 years. Yikes, this is dark romance though, so we have to keep pushing through. Dark, dark, edgy, dark. I feel like these dark romancers are trying to one-up each other though. Oh, your mother is dead? My mother's been in a coma for 20 years. And now I finally have to take her off of life support. We are not the same. We find out in the first 2 pages that Aurora was actually never close to her mother and that her grandmother raised her. She thinks of her mother as more of like a fantasy than an actual reality, and those are pretty much her direct words. Her BFF Electo, no, not that one, is here to support her. She asks if Aurora's okay, and Aurora says that she is, but Electo calls BS on that immediately. Aurora says that there's only 2 weeks left with her contract with Hades, and if her mother hasn't woken up in the last 20 years, she's not going to. Electo says that Hades would still pay to keep Aurora's mom alive, but Aurora says that it's time. Electo goes to get the doctors, and Aurora is left alone with her mom. I close my eyes and try to breathe past the burning in my throat. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry that I'm giving up. I take a ragged inhale. I can't fix what happened, but I'll make sure she pays. She, Malone, the woman whose bid for power took everything from me. We already have some vague booking about our love interest, Malone. When I picked up this book, I could not have predicted that the love interest put the other love interest's mother in a coma. Like, how do you come back from that? How? The doctors and nurses come in and ask if she's ready. She says that she is, and Electo holds her through the whole thing. They're now traveling in the car, and Aurora is like finally allowing herself to be consumed by grief. So she doesn't immediately realize that they're heading back to the underworld, which is the part of the city they live in. Again, we have a Kingdom Hearts ass world we have going on here. Aurora says, no, I have to make some arrangements, and Electo says, you need to take today off. You can make the arrangements later. I have to get out of here. Are you about to be sick in my car? I close my eyes. No. Electo is silent for a long moment. You mean get out of the city? Yes. That might be good for you. That surprises me enough that I look at her. What? She shrugs. I know you've been happy here, but fuck, Aurora, you're 30. Even with Hades taking his percentage of your income in repayment, you have more than enough money to travel the world for a decade or 2 without worrying about finances. Why not do it? Thank God that this character is 30. We love to see it. I was so excited to read that. The relief I felt was palpable. The first sapphic dark romance I read, by the way, was Tris 6 Venom, which is children. You can watch those reviews if you want. So I was so excited that she's 30. We learn that she has been the premier submissive for Hades' sex club in the underworld since she was 21, so for 9 years. Again, this is a sex kink book. You've been warned multiple times. There's sex work in this book also. I told you in the trigger warning. Again, I was pleasantly surprised that the ages weren't too alarming throughout this book. Aurora says she'll think about traveling. Good for her. She needs to get out of here. Aurora asks Electo if she thinks that Hades will kick her out like he kicked Tink out. Tinkerbell. Yay, Kingdom Hearts. Electo says no and lists all the reasons she thinks that Hades won't kick her out, including that he has a soft spot for her, but Aurora denies this. They get to the floor they needed to get to on the elevator, and Hercules is there waiting for them. He says that Hades is looking for Aurora, and Electo is like, that old coot can wait, but Aurora decides to see him now anyway. Aurora really wants to get away because she doesn't want to explain to Hercules what her bargain was with Hades. It's important in this context, I think, to know that Hercules, Meg, and Hades are in a throuple, which is concerning if this is based more on the Disney version because Hercules and Hades would therefore be related, but I'm praying it's not that. I'm not gonna think too hard about it. They're not that important to this book overall. She sees Hades and immediately asks if he's gonna kick her out, and he's like, no. She thinks to herself that he doesn't do charity work, but like what else is giving a ton of money to a 13-year-old with a comatose mother?
All right. Yes, we're there.
And he didn't expect anything of her until she was 21. I personally would argue based on the context of this book that he never expected anything at all, but we will get there. He says that she is totally free to stay when her contract is up, but that there are plenty of people in the city who would welcome her. She thinks about how, yeah, they would welcome her, but they wouldn't want to keep her because when it comes to relationships, she's
on the outside, always looking in.
Hades actually called her in to tell her that someone wants a 2-week sexy, spicy contract. I raise my eyebrows. Hades is notoriously reluctant to allow this kind of a assignation. Both he and Alecto are control freaks when it comes to security in the underworld, and he can't guarantee the safety of his people outside it. Most everyone in Carver City is too smart to cross a line, even without constant security surveillance in place, but Hades takes no risks with his people. I'm surprised you're even considering it. Yes, well, I don't have much of a choice. The request came from a territory leader. The gaping, empty feeling in my chest roars, and I know the answer even before I put the question to voice. Which one? He holds my gaze. Malone. Dun dun dun! Chapter 2, Aurora. Aurora is befuddled, absolutely flabbergasted over Malone asking for her. Hades is also a bit confused as well, but Malone doesn't demand much and he really doesn't want to alienate her. But given Malone and Aurora's history, he thinks this is a bad idea. She thinks to herself if he knew that she had just let her mom off life support that he would have said no immediately. But our girl Aurora is hungry for revenge. Revenge.
Revengerine, revengerine, revengerine.
She thinks about how she's worked for the underworld for 9 years and she's only slept with Malone once. You slept with a woman who put your mom in a coma at all? Huh? She says that she accepts this placement and she needs to do this. He pushes back because he's concerned Malone will hurt her. She's like, I enjoy everything, including physical pain, if you know what I mean. Hades is not happy about this, but he acknowledges that she's a grown woman and that if he just let her in 2 weeks when her contract is done anyway, she'll just go take the assignment if she really wants it anyway. She's like, you bet your ass you better just do it when you're in charge so you can control things. He's not happy that she's manipulating him, but he can't be that unhappy because he still lets it happen. He's like, okay, you can do it. Later, Alecto is pissed and she has Aurora cornered in the gym about the contract. What the hell are you doing, Aurora? She's practically vibrating with anger. Why the fuck did Hades just tell me that you're about to spend 2 weeks with Malone? Because I'm going to spend 2 weeks with Malone. I try to say it calmly, rationally, but it comes out spiked. She offered. It's an opportunity I can't miss. An opportunity. She looks like she wants to strangle me. An opportunity to do what? I could hedge, but the truth is that if anyone will understand, it's Alecto. Kill her. When I saw this, I was stoked. Don't get too excited though, because it doesn't last nearly as long as it should. Alecto is like, she will kill you, she is dangerous. And that if Aurora somehow even manages to succeed, Malone's people will just kill her. Aurora says, that's fine. I don't believe in happily ever afters anymore. Girl, if you do not get a grip. Alecto says, you're not a killer, and when that doesn't work, she's like, you fall in love with everyone you sleep with. So this is a terrible plan. Aurora is like, I do not, but Alecto starts listing off people and oh my fucking god. But also finally a protagonist who's not a virgin. Alecto also says that she's been eye-fucking Malone for years. That woman killed your mother. Stand up. Aurora is like,
I have made my decision. I will not yield.
Alecto offers to kill Malone for her. She's a real ride or die friend. I can appreciate it. Aurora says, no, it has to be me. And the chapter ends with her determined to kill Malone. Chapter 3, Malone. We're meeting our other lead, Malone, and she is in Hades' office, waiting to find out what the decision will be about the 2-week assignation with Aurora. She knows that he feels very sentimentally toward Aurora, and so she does not know how this is gonna go. He tells her that there are conditions and that he's going to set hard limits because he's not sure that Aurora will. Malone is giddy as hell because she's about to have a very fun, spicy time for the next 2 weeks. The conditions are no blood play, nothing that will scar, and no breath or like water play, like drowning.
So no head?
Malone brings up that these are the rules of the club, but Hades says, yeah, you're not at the club, so it requires me to put those limits in place somewhere else, and it needs to be stated explicitly. And I actually loved this. I loved that there were clear boundaries when it came to the kink aspects of this book, and that they were stated clearly and explicitly, and that there were a lot about safety. I really appreciated that. I might not like much about this book, but I really did love the layers of consent in this book, because these are things that are very important to kink. Malone says that she has no intention of hurting Aurora. She just wants to play with her. Hades asks her why now, and Malone says, well, her contract with you is ending in 2 weeks. So now is as good a time as any. Enjoy her. Such simple words that don't come close to describing the fire in my blood whenever I'm around that pretty submissive. It's been years since that single scene was shared, and I can barely be in the same room as her without wanting to wind her colorful hair around my fist and drive her to her knees, to make her cry and beg and oh. She ignites all my worst impulses, tempts me to forego the control I value so highly. If I were less stubborn, I'd let her go. Nothing good can come of having Aurora in my home for 2 weeks, but I have to risk it if there's even a chance I can purge this burning desire from my veins. Moreover, a small secret part of me wants to indulge in this selfish thing. I thought it was so funny that Aurora wants to kill Malone, and that's why she agreed to the contract, but Malone just wants to get her out of her system after 9 years of pining since they hooked up. 9 whole years!
What is it with this chick? She have beer-flavored nipples?
Katee says that the contract starts tonight and that he's going to send someone halfway through to check on Aurora. He says that if he's not satisfied she's fine, that Malone forfeits the rest of the contract and Aurora is coming straight back home. Malone says she is fine with all of this and says she doesn't really need to pack anything besides like personal items that she needs because she has everything there. Her having everything taken care of is a little sexy, I'm not gonna lie. I just want someone to take care of me. Malone is uncomfortable because he leaves to go get Aurora and she was trained not to turn her back to the enemy or something. She thinks it's a power play, but I don't get it. It just feels like he's going to get the person that she literally wants, but if you say so, I'll believe you. Hades comes back with Aurora and says that she agreed and tells Aurora to behave. Malone is super into her because no one challenges her like Aurora does. I mean, you slept with her once 9 years ago. How do you know this is a consistent thing? She's 30 now. Whatever, moving on. Hades says Aurora's overnight bag is at the desk and Malone's like, good, we're leaving. Aurora asks if they're not gonna stay and play at the club and the kink stuff begins. You're not going to play in the club first? I stalk to her and tap her pretty lips. When I want you to speak, I'll say so. Tell me your safe word. Thorn, she whispers, good, let's go. There is something hot about that and I can't explain it. But when I was reading the spicy bits of this book, I was genuinely having a good time. Such a good time. I like that we're in Malone's POV for this chapter because we can see that Malone is going like feral with desire. She's like losing her marbles. She has denied herself for 9 years and she is pent up. Unlike men in dark romances though, she has self-control. I said what I said. Malone carries Aurora to the parking garage where Malone's head of security, Sarah, who is non-binary, is waiting for them. Sarah is unhappy because they don't like Malone bringing like unknown people to the house and there really isn't a lot of information available on Aurora. If my boss was basically a mob boss, I don't think that I'd be thrilled about that either. But Malone gets what she wants anyway and Sarah knows that Malone is perfectly capable of defending herself. Malone tells Sarah to take them home. Malone relaxes once they get out of Hades' territory because he didn't change his mind. She then tells Aurora to take off her panties. Chapter 4, Aurora. Aurora is full of angry feelings, but it feels so good to submit. She's into it, good for her. She thinks that when she's in subspace, it's hard to hang on to that anger and also that her plan is flimsy at best. Girl, we know. She thinks about how she has to submit to get Malone's guard down, but really she just wants to because she's really into this. She takes off her undies and Malone tells her to get herself off already with Sarah in the car. But it seems like everyone in this world is into kink stuff, so we don't really have to feel too bad for poor Sarah as far as I can tell. I'm almost ashamed by how wet I am, that this woman, this enemy, manages to turn me on despite the hate burning strong in my chest. I pull my teddy up and stroke my... Malone doesn't even watch. She's looking out the window as if this is a normal car ride and I'm not fingering myself less than a foot from her. Aurora is living the life. She's getting very excited by this. She thinks if Malone will look this unaffected when she eats Malone's kitty later. Aurora is getting super turned on because she's being denied attention and she just hates that she's getting so worked up by Malone. It's almost as if your BFF Electo told you that this was a terrible idea. But we're not here for the plot, we're here to be corny. Just once I wish that a book had good writing and good plot and also good smut. It seems like I'm cursed to never get both. Aurora suddenly remembers that she's never going to see her mom again and so she stops petting the kitty. Malone asks if there's a problem. Yes, but I'm not about to admit the extent of it. I close my eyes and strive to keep my mask in place. How can I want to attack her and also beg for more pleasure? Those two feelings shouldn't exist at the same time. It's wrong for me to want her, isn't it? I've spent so much time believing that there's nothing that happens between consenting adults that should result in shame. But here I am, feeling shame. I think that there is a tiny difference between feeling shame for normal kink interactions and feeling shame that you're corny for your mother's killer. Just a tiny one. Our girl Aurora says, I don't feel like finishing, and so Malone just like flips her on her stomach and is barely not touching the kitty cat. This drives Aurora insane. I tense, expecting her to spank me or something harsh, but she just wraps her fingers around my upper thigh, gripping me tightly and holding me in place. Her knuckles are barely an inch away from my and somehow that distance is just as hot as if she shoved 2 fingers into me. She shoves her free hand over my butt, pushing my lace teddy up and burying me from the waist down. There seems to be some misunderstanding of how this works. She traces a single finger down my spine, stopping at the small of my back. Your flouncing and bratty attitude will not provoke the response you want. It's best you learn that now. If you don't obey my commands, you will be punished. She taps my spine lightly with her nail. Punishments are not to be enjoyed, Aurora. I should keep my mouth shut, but this woman manages to rile me like no other. I squeeze my eyes shut and fist my hands against the leather seat. Then maybe you shouldn't have contracted a submissive who gets off on being punished, Malone. I just have to say I do love their interactions in the smutty bits. There's just something about it. I do like their chemistry only in those scenes though. Malone says, I'm not like your usual playmates, and then she tells Sarah to stop because she wants a drink on the way home. Malone is just staying there with her hand like that until they pull into the bar. She tells Aurora to sit silently and wait for Malone to get back. Malone tells Aurora not to talk to Sarah because Sarah will not indulge Aurora. Malone leaves. This makes Aurora furious/frustrated. She asks how long she's supposed to wait, and Sarah predictably doesn't answer. Aurora is still corny, and she's reaching down to touch herself again, and Sarah's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Aurora's like, or what? And Sarah's like, actually, do what you want. I'm just saying that it won't work out the way you think it will. Not them being insanely aware of their boss's kinks. Aurora is angry and corny, but manages to wait 20 minutes despite thinking about self-pleasuring out of spite. She sees Malone coming back from the bar and thinks about how attractive Malone is. Malone then proceeds to ignore her for the next 15 minutes, and it takes that long to get back to the building. While we're waiting, Aurora info dumps what she knows about Malone. Malone ignores me for the remaining 15 minutes it takes to get to her building. I'm familiar with the location even if I've never been here before. Meg has files on every single power player in Carver City and extra detailed information on the territory leaders in particular. I've spent more time studying Malone's file than anyone else's. I know she has a staff of 50 security people, though she keeps a smaller team in charge of her personal residence. She's CEO of a company that employs hundreds of people. The company has great healthcare, and all full-time workers get paid vacation as well as paid parental leave for up to 3 months. The employee turnover rate is practically non-existent from the mailroom to the COO. As infuriating as it is to acknowledge, she seems like a good boss. As irritating as it is to acknowledge, she seems like a good boss, and the same policies are enacted with her people for the less than legal parts of her business. I don't care if Malone is a hot CEO who actually provides good benefits to her people. She's still a CEO, and we all know what should happen to them. It should be particularly Italian American. Aurora wonders if her mother had something similar when she led the territory, but she has no information or stories to go on. Keep that in the back of your noggin for later. When Aurora tries to get out of the car, Malone just scoops her right up again. I would love to be carried everywhere by a muscular woman. That does do it for me. Aurora is like, put me down. And Malone is like, if you keep speaking out of turn, I might not let you owe for the whole 2 weeks. Aurora says that she's sorry, and Malone says, no, you're not, as they get in the elevator. As they get to the top, Sarah tells Aurora not to do anything to hurt Malone or they're gonna fuck her up. Fair enough. Aurora knows that this isn't an idle threat, but she knew that this wasn't going to be easy anyway because Malone is an Amazon from Sabine Valley. Remember what I said about Kingdom Hearts rules? Yeah. They get to Malone's apartment and it's very minimalist. This would do nothing for me. I love having stuff everywhere. I'm very much a maximalist, but I'm goth, so you know. But to each their own. Malone tells her to take her teddy off. I didn't know what that was when I was writing this. It's apparently some kind of nightgown. She tells Aurora that she looks like a sorority girl playing dress up. Ooh. Aurora does it and follows Malone to a playroom with high-end kink gear. This woman is rich. Malone hooks her into some kind of contraption that keeps like her arms and legs apart and says, now let's see what I've claimed. We are flying by the seat of our pants. Chapter 5, Malone. Malone thinks about how being the leader for so long without having to fight for anything has made her too soft. She's excited because she hasn't had to fight for anything in a while, but claiming Aurora will be a battle. If this was a butch, I would be feral over this. I am who I am. She thinks about how hot Aurora is while she's like checking her out, and also thinks about how Aurora is really wonderful and nice to everyone but her. How she's coldly polite and nothing more. She says that this doesn't bother her because she doesn't want to keep Aurora, but I think we can all see the writing on the walls. These authors are never subtle, and I wish they would just learn a little bit of subtlety. Just a smidge. She's trying not to think about what's going on in Sabine Valley, where her sister rules and where she's from. We will get to that, but for now there's smut. Malone says that Aurora has a terrible habit of trying to talk from the bottom. I don't, she grits out. If I want you to speak, I'll ask you a question. You most certainly do talk from the bottom. I've spent too many hours watching her play in public, studying her interactions with the other dominants. They indulge her new bratty behavior. They flat out indulge her. You have them all wrapped around your pretty finger. Does it get boring? Never having to wonder what will happen next because you already know. She blinks up at me. I'm only a few inches taller than her, but the heels give me extra height. Aurora licks her lips. You would like to pretend you're special, wouldn't you? Just because you've spent years watching me doesn't mean you know me, Malone. Such a mouth on you, I murmur. I can't resist dragging my thumb over her full bottom lip. You won't provoke me into doing what you want. This is so fun, I can't even lie to you right now. I cannot stress to you how nice it is to not be reading the same boring, repetitive smut scene over and over in this book. If this book was only sex scenes, it would have gotten a higher rating from me. Malone checks to see that Aurora knows her safe word. Aurora snarls it out. For Aurora's insolence, Malone isn't going to let her reach the end. Malone says the ban will be lifted in the morning if Aurora pleases her, and if she doesn't, it will be extended. Aurora's like, you really would deny me for 2 weeks, huh? And Malone thinks to herself she doesn't want to, but she absolutely would. I kind of love a woman of her word, though. I don't know why this book got to me. I am so picky about this stuff, though, and I just loved it here. Like, the smut stuff was really good. Aurora is now acting submissive, but Malone knows it's a mask, and she wants to see what's underneath. You can tell that they've both been really hung up on each other for the past God knows how many years. Nine. We learned that the last time they were together was at Aurora's virginity auction, and ew. I know that they were consenting adults, but there was something just so deeply icky about that to me. Gross. Malone takes a boob in the mouth, puts on some nipple clamps. We're gonna have to come back to this also at some point. You'll find out why. She asks if they're too tight, and again, I love the ongoing consent. I love the ongoing checking in. She clamps the downstairs also. No, you know. Malone asks if Aurora can get off on pain alone, and Aurora says, possibly, mistress. Malone loves this and tells her to let her know if she's close to the finish. Malone is now flogging her, and she wants to break Aurora's attitude before the scene is over. Malone stops for a bit and takes off the clamps one by one, and then puts whatever was in the clamps in her mouth. When Aurora gets close to the precipice, she tells Malone, and Malone stops just like she's supposed to. It's all a great time being had by all as far as I can tell. Aurora is like, you're not really gonna leave me like this, and Malone is like, LOL, yes I am. Aurora is like, I hate you, and Malone is like, maybe, but you don't hate what I do to you. Ooh. Malone checks to see if Aurora's having any kind of circulation problems after she takes her out of the cuffs, and Aurora says no and that she's doing fine. Malone tells her to clean the toys and put them away before coming down to a room at the end of the hallway. Again, see how fun dark romance can be when there is communication and everyone is into the sex stuff. Again, I know some of the other stuff is cathartic for some people. I read it sometimes too as a victim, you know, but like at the same time, ooh, there's a fine line. I feel like I go over it in other books. We have a book next week that's a dark romance that I'm gonna go over. That thing is not a fine line. That thing is just sprinting right over it. Aurora ends the chapter smiling and thinking how everything is coming together perfectly. I think all of her plans are shit and they won't amount to anything. Chapter 6, Aurora. Aurora is thinking that at this point any other dominant would have wrapped her up and cuddled her by now, but of course it doesn't apply to her. She then immediately contradicts herself in the next paragraph. I don't want it to apply to me. Letting her beat me, fucking her, all of that can be waved away in the name of getting close to her. I don't want to get close to her. It feels good to be held as my adrenaline drops off after a scene, to feel like I'm being treasured by my dominant. But Malone isn't mine. She never will be. I have been in her care for a few short hours. Surely I'm not in danger of forgetting that already. No, of course not. I'm simply playing the game. I kind of hate when we immediately slip into, but she's not like other girls. I guess in this case we're actually going into the, I don't want to be like other submissives to her, but I still don't like it. I know we're trying to establish that Aurora is already slipping into feelings. But I think we can do that plenty of times with her getting like horny immediately and other reasons. And also with Electo telling us she falls in love with everyone she sleeps with. Aurora gathers the toys and thinks about how the room is so immaculate and organized. She looks at the rainbow straps and wonders if Malone will use those on her. Fair. She's feeling frustrating about the edging. We find out that Aurora put cleaning toys in her contract. She had like Hades put it in her contract because she finds it soothing. I loved this because it showed like multiple layers of aftercare that all like let her come down from a scene. I really liked that added detail. It's so refreshing to see a dark romance that is firmly centered around consent and highly planned out consent at that rather than assault. Aurora thinks about disobeying and not going into that room that she was told to go into, but she decides to go. We get some in this section about how Aurora has heard from other submissives that Malone is an excellent dom, even if she is a monster. Again, we're establishing they're both obsessed with each other. When she gets to the other room, it seems to be Malone's bedroom. Malone has a bubble bath like ready to go, which I love. Aurora makes a joke about finishing the night off with drowning, and Malone says, "This is the last time you speak out of turn, do not test me." I can't lie, I love a little brat typing. Malone helps her into the tub and then she's like starting up a conversation with her. She lets Aurora know that it is in fact a conversation. "How fucked up am I that I'm accepting comfort from the woman I have every intention of killing? I closed my eyes and pushed the question away." Girl, you went into this knowing what a kink/sex work relationship this was going to be. You are supposed to be luring her into a false sense of security so you can kill her. Pull yourself together. They talk about Aurora changing her hair color a lot, and Malone starts to massage Aurora and getting all like the tension out. Aurora asks why the massage in the bath when a quick cuddle with a blanket would do. Malone is like, "Because I want to." Hot. I love seeing people go a bit above and beyond what the other person expected. Aurora is feeling so good she thinks she might fall asleep in the tub. She is living my dream right now. Malone grabs a fluffy towel and asks Aurora if she can stand without falling over. Aurora says of course, even though she does not know if she's lying or not. Malone dries Aurora off thoroughly with the towel, and Aurora can't help but think that Malone does everything so completely. She thinks to herself that this is why she didn't want aftercare from Malone, because she didn't want to muddy the waters. Girl, you knew what this stuff entails. I don't think that any dominant worth their salt would let you reject aftercare. Malone pulls out a full bottle of lotion, but it's not just any lotion. It's Aurora's brand. Aurora is very particular about lotion, so this is probably extra hot. Aurora says, "You don't have to lotion me," because she thinks it's too intimate. Malone says that she doesn't do anything she doesn't want to do, and Aurora should sit still and be quiet. Aurora thinks to herself that this is very thorough aftercare, but she has a strange feeling floating around in her head about it. She's excited that Malone wants her. Aurora tries to manipulate Malone into letting her eat the cookie. We all know what I'm talking about, but I don't want YouTube to restrict my video. I'm trying to get more viewers here. Malone says access to the cookie is a privilege that you haven't earned yet. Malone tells her to come along and kneel at the bottom of the bed. She tells her to put on a piece of clothing because her house is like very cold. She keeps it cold. Is she me? I cannot stand my house being warm in the slightest, and maybe that's the New England in me. I don't know. Malone is going to have Aurora watch while she touches herself. Aurora loves this. Aurora thinks to herself that there are a few things that can chase away the dull ache that she's been feeling since her mother died, but that sex is one of the best ways for her. I do think that you need therapy instead of having a bunch of sex, but then we wouldn't have this book. Aurora, after a little bit, begs to touch the cookie, and Malone says, "That's enough of that. You might get away with that behavior with some other dominants, but not with me." Aurora thinks to herself that she wants pleasure and that she only has one shot to get Malone's guard down, so she needs to make Malone think that she's being obedient. Girl, we all know you're not gonna do it. We all know you're not gonna go through with it. The hell. Chapter 7, Malone. Malone thinks to herself that Aurora almost got her. I love that she's trying to have restraint, but she wants it just as bad. I do truly love the sex scenes in this book. Malone sets her up in the guest bedroom and she makes sure that Aurora understands what happens if she disobeys the not getting off in the night rule before Aurora finishes the sentence with, "I'll be punished." But she'll be a good little submissive and she won't try to touch the kitty. Malone thinks that she shouldn't enjoy her mouthiness or her very obvious anger, but she does. Girl, you are so clearly into it because it makes her different and it sets her apart in your mind. It's okay to like things in kink. Just because it's not normally what you would do doesn't mean that you can't like it. Fly free and be kinky. You have them all fooled. I don't mean to speak, but seeing her pull on her sunshine mask irritates me for some reason. They see the sweet, biddable Aurora because that's what you want them to see. They have no idea that you're a vat of gasoline just waiting for the right match strike to set you aflame. One wrong move and you burn down all of Carver City. See, as soon as we're not doing kink stuff, some of this conversation is just cringe. The dialogue is cringe. I can't take it seriously, and how could I? It's like when the villains in Kingdom Hearts give a speech and you suddenly realize all over again that you don't know what's going on or why. Aurora's like, there wasn't a question in there, and Malone's like, because it wasn't a question. She then asks Aurora how long she's worked as a submissive, even though she knows damn well it's been 9 years. Malone says that in all those years, Aurora has only slipped once, and it's when she wanted to burn down Hook's home because she thought Tink was in danger. This is probably the plot of one of the other books, but I'm not reading that. I don't care. I'm not reading straight smut. I did enough of that growing up. I am who I am. Aurora's like, how did you hear about that? And Malone's like, come on, I know the value of information that comes from territories that border mine. Aurora's like, even Ursa's territory? And Malone is like, of course, even though we learn that they're friends. Malone notices that after she says this, Aurora just kind of shuts down. Aurora says that she's very tired. Malone doesn't want this conversation to end, but she just tells Aurora that she has work in the morning, and so Aurora will need to entertain herself during those hours. Malone leaves, and instead of going to bed herself, she goes to see Sarah to get a report. Sarah says that there is nothing to report other than Aurora sleeping in the guest room, and that there are no new developments other than that. Malone is like, I have it under control, and Sarah's like, no you don't, but do you want to spar? Malone thinks to herself that she probably does need to, because the scene didn't provide the kink release that she had really been banking on. She tells Sarah that she's fine for tonight, but maybe tomorrow. Malone then checks in with Sarah and asks when the last time they slept was. Sarah says that Luna is taking over in about 10 minutes, but Malone knows that that's not an answer. Malone thinks to herself that Aurora is a symptom of the whole, that she's stressed about what's happening in Sabine Valley. We learn that during one of the big celebrations we're allowed to challenge people to combat, that 2 of her nieces and her youngest brother were trapped in handfasts with men they didn't choose for themselves. And that was done as revenge for something that her sister did. Handfasts are kind of an arranged marriage as far as I understand, but for a time limit, I think. But Sarah says, no, you can't sneak into Sabine Valley and assassinate the Payne brothers. I'm pretty sure there are more books about them, but once again, I do not care about straight people. I will not be reading them. Sarah also says that they can't whoop Malone's sister's butt either for letting it happen. Malone says that she was considering both. Sarah says that the rules are important for a reason, especially when you have spent the last 2 decades living in Carver City, not in Sabine Valley. And they say you're still an Amazon, but you're an outsider now. I still don't understand the politics of this world at all, but do I really want to? No, not really, no. Malone is like, I know, but that doesn't mean I like it. Sarah is like, none of us do, but maybe you should call your sister. Malone has been avoiding this because what is there to say? Malone says maybe tomorrow, but Sarah is like, yeah, maybe, but in the tone of someone who believes that Malone will not do it tomorrow. I love them. Malone tells Sarah to get some rest, and Sarah is like, I will if you will, and Malone is like, it's a deal. Sarah gives Malone some advice and says to stop just thinking about scenarios to do with Aurora and just actually do them, because it will help work out some stress, and Malone says that she will consider it. Malone goes and creeps on Aurora sleeping, which is weird as fuck. I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Malone thankfully shuts the door and is like, what am I doing? Good. I'm glad you're catching yourself because that is creepy. Malone goes to her own room and says tomorrow things will be better. Chapter 8, Aurora. Aurora got to sleep in late and she's back to thinking about 2 weeks of kink, revenge, and murder. She thinks about how her plan is not that good, but instead of fixing the plan, she says it's better than nothing. I do not agree. Aurora thinks about what would have happened if she had let her mother go at 13, and I actually think that this is an important conversation that she should be having with herself, but preferably in therapy. She admits that she barely knows anything about her mother at all, and that her mother was basically a stranger to her. She wonders if she hadn't taken the deal with Hades, if she would have met a nice person, fallen in love, and had some kids. I'm surprised it's kind of taken her this long to think about it, but grief is weird, and she's going through it, so we will cut her some slack this one time. Aurora takes a shower, and then when she looks in the closet after, she realizes it's full of clothes and shoes. At first she wonders who stays here regularly, but then she realizes they are all her size. You have been obsessed with her for years. I think you would have noticed if she had a regular fuck buddy. She realizes that some of these clothes are very expensive and that some of them are designed by Tink, and Tink has like quite a long wait list. Girl, she has been thinking about you. It is so obvious. Aurora starts panicking even though it in her brain, she's like, Malone doing something like this kind of makes sense for her personality. Aurora thinks to herself that Malone didn't have to fight her mom one-on-one and that she could have just taken the territory in a different way. By the end, you kind of realize that Aurora doesn't know the politics of the world or how things work either. She thinks that she wants to make her pay again. She thinks about shredding one of the outfits to ribbons, but she knows that that won't really help anything. Personally, I think she just wanted to wear the clothes. Aurora goes out to the penthouse and tries to sneak around and try and find something that she can use to her advantage. She goes into Malone's room and there is a feral aggressive cat in there and Aurora is like, of course she would have a cat like that, but Malone is in the room with her. Surprise!
Surprise, bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
The cat's name is Rogue. The cat is the best character in the entire book. Aurora asks where the cat stuff is since she didn't really see any cat stuff, and Malone says she has a special cabinet made that's in the laundry room for the cats, like litter box, etc. Malone says, come this way. Aurora thinks to herself that it was careless to assume that Malone was just out and about and not still in the apartment. Yes, it was careless. It's almost like you have no idea what you're doing. Malone tells her she's sitting in on a meeting. Malone tells her to keep her entertained while she's doing that. So Aurora gets on her knees immediately. Every time I think this book might have a scene that's not about sex, I'm proven wrong immediately. Malone also tells her to be quiet. Malone turns the sound on to the call, which is crazy. Even if you're making as little noise as possible, the kitty makes noise when it's wet. I just can't. Aurora gets down to the all-you-can-eat Malone buffet. She wants to see Malone shatter, and she wants to be the one to do it. Girl, we all know you're just corny. And we can tell she's already getting into feelings because she's like, Malone felt like hers. Where did the revenge go? We add some fingers. After a while, Malone hits mute and says, stop playing around and get me to the end. Aurora wants to touch herself at the same time, but she knows that Malone probably won't allow it. Why do I like this smut? But why is the smut the only good part of this book? Malone gets there, good for her. Malone tells Aurora not to stop because the call's gonna last for a while. And Aurora's like, yes, mistress. Chapter 9, Malone. Malone doesn't know what she's going to do with Aurora because she wants to do sexy dom stuff, but she also wants to just fuck for the next 2 weeks. It must be so hard to decide what you're going to do with the sex worker you paid for 2 weeks. She hangs up on the call. It was uneventful. She purposely lightened her schedule for the 2-week sex romp because she doesn't want to get distracted from either thing. But for the things that she can't shift around that are important, she put in the morning because she understands that Aurora is like nocturnal because she works at the underworld. And as an overnight worker, I love that she thought about Aurora's schedule. Malone tells Aurora to stop and pulls her off. Aurora doesn't want to stop. Even though Malone thinks to herself that this is a mistake, she kisses Aurora. It's amazing. They're fighting for dominance in the kiss. This is where you lost me because if I wanted to read that, I would just go to AO3 where it's free. It can't happen. Losing control, any control, is unacceptable. That's what happened to my sister. And now look at the situation back home. 2 nieces and our brother in danger. The trust of our people wavering. An old enemy threatening everything our family has spent generations working toward. Aurora is hardly the Payne brothers, but there are thousands of people in my territory who depend on my keeping the status quo. Allowing myself to become wrapped up in her might not endanger everything I've worked so hard for, but I don't know that for sure. These things don't correlate to one another. I know for some reason in your mind you're relating these 2 things, but they're not related in the slightest. Like what you're doing for a fun, sexy time has literally nothing to do with that situation at all. Malone creates some space between them and asks Aurora why she agreed to take this assignment as she's unbuttoning her nightshirt. Malone understands that Aurora has intensely disliked her for years, so why would she take this? This is when I knew that she did not know that the lady that she put into a coma 20 years ago had a kid. And the fact that she didn't even think about this at all is wild. Aurora lies and says she was angry after they did it together because she didn't come back or something. The fact that Malone doesn't see through this flimsy excuse is ridiculous. Malone is like, do you think the kitty is so good that I'll never get over you? And Aurora is like, I'm more than just my kitty. There's a reason why I'm the favorite submissive of the underworld. And it's the same reason you've been avoiding me for almost 10 years. Shots fired. Malone thinks that there is an arrow of truth in this. She leans forward, almost kissing distance, and asks if Aurora thinks she can make her fall in love with her. And Aurora's like, you wouldn't be the first. Malone laughs and is like, no, I wouldn't be, but whatever petty little revenge scheme you have in your head, get rid of it now. Ooh, if only she knew. Aurora says, yes, mistress. And Malone is like, why am I irritated that she agreed so easily? Again, I cannot get into these two people who barely know each other being so clearly into each other so quickly and also falling in love in less than 2 weeks. It just doesn't get my engine running. My love story with my wife was filled with months of pining and my sad attempts at dating on OkCupid. Which were hellish, by the way. She tells Aurora to get up and plays with her nipple piercings before asking how long she's had them. Aurora says a few months, and I'm not sure there should have been nipple play at all then. My piercer made me wait 6 months of no makeup, no changing jewelry, nothing for my nose ring. It healed amazingly though, I won't lie. Malone then sucks on said titty. And I'm internally cringing because, oh my god, you have to be so careful with piercing. Are we sure that it's all the way healed? Oh, Malone cups the puss. And I hate the word cup. I hate it in this context. I don't know why, I just do. We're all allowed to hate things on this channel. This is a certified hater account. She pulls back because she's supposed to stay in control or something. She tells Aurora to get to the playroom and she thinks to herself she should really keep all the play contained to the playroom and that she really should have just had the contract at the underworld to begin with so that she wouldn't mix up, you know, her personal life or something. Yeah, girl, why did you do this? But she thinks that a deep part of herself wants Aurora here. Okay then. She pulls her pants back on, thank fuck. And tells Aurora she's pleased with her. She tells Aurora to get on this sex machine that she had made. It's a bench that's like meant to be knelt on. It's meant to create a grinding kind of motion. And that's as far as we're going to go with describing that. Aurora asks Malone if this is a punishment or a reward, and Malone is like, a little bit of both. Malone checks to make sure the restraints aren't too tight and asks Aurora for her safe word again. I just really do love it. No notes, honestly. She then says Aurora can get off as many times as she wants. Yeah, she hooks it on the back so she's completely at the machine's mercy. The scream I scrumped when I was reading this. Malone sits and watches her in a chair because it's remote operated. She pretends to read a book, but she's like too hot and bothered. And I think that that's hot. Don't come for me. She has Aurora go until Aurora begs her to not have her like that again. Malone asks her what she needs and tells her to speak plainly. And Aurora says that she needs her to touch her. Malone unhooks her from the machine but asks her if she needs to be unhooked from the handcuffs. And then she also lifts her to like the chair that she was at. Aurora says that she's been cuffed for like a lot longer than that and that she's fine. Malone thinks that she needs to check for herself, but she is too focused. She says the next time Aurora gets there, it will be screaming her name. Chapter 10, Aurora. Aurora is having a great time as Malone is chowing down. Again, if you want the full sex scenes, go buy this book, go read it. Her arms are aching a little bit because they're still handcuffed behind her, but she's so turned on she does not care. Aurora gets to the finish and she's so upset that she reacts like this when Malone touches her. Girl, this is your fault. And she like really wants to kiss her. Girl, get it together. What happened to the murder? Malone uncuffs her and asks her about pain, and Aurora says no and that she's done it for longer. Malone is like, not with me, you haven't. And I love that genuinely. She doesn't just take her word for it, she really wants to make sure, and I think that that is wonderful. Again, more dark romance for like this for me, please, but with a better plot. Malone decides for some reason to ask Aurora what she wants. Aurora almost blurts out that she wants to murder her because of endorphins. Girl, this was always a dumb as fuck plan. She says, what more could I want? I almost blurt out the truth. Sex and endorphins and the aftermath of too many O's, and the words nearly spill from my lips at that tiny prompting. I managed to lock myself down at last moment, managed to shove everything down deep. It takes more effort than it should to dredge up my sunny smile. What more could I want than what I already have? Her perfect brows lower and she squeezes my wrists once, a warning. You want to be a plaything for the rich and powerful, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, constantly watching your patrons find love in relationships and they're forever people while you are constantly left in the rearview mirror. She laughs, pretty and cruel. Don't lie to me, you have too much fire to be content with that. She's not wrong, but I bristle all the same. You don't know me. I know enough. She releases me and pushes to her feet. Then again, I suppose I could be wrong. You might be nothing more interesting than a toy to be played with and then discarded. It stings. Good Lord, it stings. How dare she pull out a layer of pain I very carefully don't think about. I have friends and people who care about me. Yes. Malone snags a small towel from a hook on the wardrobe and wipes her mouth. And when they're done having fun with you, they go home with the people they love and leave you in the shadows. Against all reason, my throat feels thick and my eyes start to burn. I've had relationships, real ones. Something goes flinty in her eyes. I'm aware. She leans down until our faces are even, until I can't escape her gaze. And how did those relationships go? Every single one of them. That's none of your business. I shouldn't have even brought them up. I wouldn't have if I was thinking clearly. No, I'll tell you how they went. She's unrelenting, her cruelty quiet and cutting deep. They saw what they wanted to see, what you wanted them to see, the surface shit. They liked the idea that they could have pretty, submissive Sunshine Aurora whenever they wanted, the darling of the underworld. How long did it take for reality to creep in? How long until they started to resent you for the very thing that drew them in the first place? My eyes are burning, but I refuse to break her gaze. Choosing the wrong partner doesn't mean I'm not worthy of love. You're correct. She tosses the towel into a metal basket near the door, but it brings me back to my original question. What is it that you really want? That was so out of pocket. She did not have to get her like that. Holy hell. Damn, you have been more than creeping on her though. Ugh. Malone brings it back to what Aurora really wants, and Aurora says, I don't know you well enough or trust you to answer that question. Yes! Boundaries! You are a sex worker she hired. Get it together, girl. Aurora thinks to herself that she needs time and space to get her armor back in place. Malone says that's fair and starts to wrap her up in a blanket burrito and holds her. Aurora tries to stand on her own and get out of here, and Malone is like, what the fuck are you doing? Aurora says she doesn't need aftercare, and Malone says, shut the fuck up. Honestly, right now, Aurora's being a total bimbo, so I'm on team Malone. You need aftercare. Malone says you don't know what's best for you right now, and would you ever let any sub that worked for you not have aftercare? Aurora's like, no, we would educate them on why it's really important. Malone is like, okay, so do you think you're exempt from that? She also asks Aurora if Aurora's afraid of her, and Aurora says she's not. Malone just hums at her. They sit together for a long time, like Aurora swaddled, and Malone's not gonna go anywhere until Aurora has visibly cooled down. Once she has, Malone says that she has some things to do, and that Aurora should find something to eat. She also says that they will continue this conversation later. Yes! A main character who doesn't just forget about things. Aurora is having some feelings though, and she doesn't like it. We know, girl, you fall in love with everyone you sleep with. She goes to the kitchen and eats. After that, she searches around the apartment a little bit, but Malone has locked her bedroom this time. Aurora considers picking the lock, but she has a feeling that Malone would know that she'd been in there. She's bored because at least when she's at work, she has other tasks. Girl, go clean the sex room again. I thought that was part of your contract. Did we just forget about that? She goes into the room she's staying in and she grabs some workout clothes because she still has a ton of energy. She gets in the elevator and clicks on the floor she saw Sarah click when they were there last time. She's hoping that then she can be directed to where the gym is. She asks the woman at the front desk where the gym is, and she says 1 floor down. Aurora notices that there are a ton of security cameras on this floor, but not in Malone's house. I would bet they were probably more hidden girly, but Aurora doesn't have this thought. Someone is there waiting for her when she gets down to the gym floor, and they're going to show her the gym. The woman asks if she wants the weight room, the general gym, or the sparring area. Aurora says that she doesn't have anyone to spar with, and the woman is like, not yet, but like people kind of have a rotation around here from when they're getting off of work and stuff. If you know where this is going, don't worry, so do I. They get into the sparring room and Sarah is sparring with guess who?
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's Clefairy!
Malone! Chapter 11, Malone. Aurora showing up distracts Malone, and then she has to go on the defensive against Sarah because she's wearing one of the cute little outfits that Malone picked out for her. Malone is able to get a hit on Sarah and then says, hey, we have guests. Sarah says they almost had her, and Malone says, you did. Malone goes up to Aurora and is like, why are you here? Aurora says she has too much pent-up energy and that she wanted to run some of it off. Malone says, well, I obviously haven't done my job correctly then. I kind of agree. How are you not tired? Aurora says there were supposed to be people to spar with, but she doesn't see anyone else. Malone explains that there was just a shift change and tells Aurora to go run off her energy somewhere else. Aurora asks Malone if she only spars with Sarah, and Malone is like, I know that you're a masochist, but we're not in a scene and I really don't want to hurt you. Aurora says maybe I'm the one who will hurt you. Fight, 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 fight. Who is this woman? I've spent far too long studying her to the point where it borders on inappropriate. Distraction does not begin to describe Aurora. She's a blazing light in any room she walks into. I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have the desire to bottle it up and keep it for myself. But this, I don't have the information to respond appropriately to this. I've only ever seen her in the club. So you agree you were being creepy. Glad we're on the same page. Malone tells Sarah to clear the room and everybody heads out. It was only 2 people anyway. Malone warns Aurora that she's not capable of going easy. Aurora says that she did not expect her to. Malone is very worried that Aurora is breakable, but Aurora is ready to go. Aurora is a whirlwind, and Malone Malone is just flabbergasted. She then remembers that Aurora is really good friends with Electo. Malone thinks that Aurora is a threat she didn't anticipate. Yeah, duh. Also, you can be great at sparring and you still can't be a gun. Anyone can be a threat to you? Malone asks Aurora if she's mad at her, and Aurora's like, why would I be mad at you? Malone is worried that she's mad that Malone pushed for aftercare. That's not it, girly.
Think, Danielle. Think really hard.
Aurora takes advantage of Malone being distracted and she's able to punch Malone in the face. Icon. Malone is able to roll them over though because she's stronger and she pins Aurora down on the mat. We're about to get some smut, which I feel is a good thing because the plot of this book is not good. Malone says, you didn't pull your punch, and Aurora's like, oops. Malone feels a lot of admiration and lust though. Malone asks if Aurora knows how to use any weapons, and Aurora says, why don't you pull out some guns and we'll find out. She is so obvious that I don't understand how no one has thought that she wants to kill Malone. Malone asks what Electo was preparing her for, and Aurora's like, who says she was preparing me for anything? Malone realizes she has been making assumptions. Yeah. She's like, I have you pinned, and to the victor goes the spoils. And Aurora's like, oh, I'm the spoils of war now. Malone can tell that she's furious, but cannot tell why. Like, Aurora might get hot for her, but she is pissed. Malone asks, hey, are you mad because it took me like 8 years to circle back to you? Aurora lies and says, yes, next question. Malone knows that she's lying, but also is like, that's a partial truth. Malone is like, we'll add sparring to the schedule, and Aurora's like, I'll pass. Malone's like, whoever wins gets a favor. Aurora's like, what kind of favor? Malone's like, whatever you want within reason. Malone decides she wants a kiss as the prize. I nip her bottom lip and trace the spot with my tongue, deepening the kiss when she gasps a little. Pretty Aurora. She's a revelation. It doesn't seem to matter how many times she's experienced something, how many people she's kissed. She reacts like this is the first time, like it's a shock, or maybe I'm projecting. There's something about this woman that brings a fierceness to the fore. I think they mean the forefront, but whatever. I want to conquer her, to brand our shared experience all over her hot little body. The desire is inconvenient, but if I could get rid of it, I would have done it by now. That's what these 2 weeks are about, purging her from my system. She's falling so hard. It's so sad because she doesn't know Aurora wants to kill her. It's also unrealistic because they don't know anything about each other. Malone thinks to her, different person? She might be tempted to keep her. Chapter 12, Aurora. They say love and hate are different sides of the same coin, so are lust and anger. Malone has turned my fury into an inferno that I'm terrified will burn me down to nothing but ash. She's kissing me. Something I refuse to admit that I can't get enough of. More, her body is pressed against me, and it feels like I've been starved for touch until this moment. Like the one thing I'm missing in my life is the slow slide of her soft skin against mine. She's holding me down, but it feels like we're clutching each other, like we exist in a space outside the simple rules of gravity. I can't help rubbing myself against her leg as her tongue strokes mine. It must be the endorphins still raging from the sparring session, because I'm so turned on, I can barely think straight. I can't think straight. I need to remind all of you that the plot is still dumb. I loved the smut, but I could not give a singular fuck about the plot or what's happening with these characters because they're not well written, but honestly, especially Aurora, she's not well written at all. They're making out, Aurora's trying to get off on Malone's leg, and Malone tells her to use her. She gets herself there while they're making out. Malone asks if she has something else she wants to do to finish her workout, and Aurora's like, I guess I'd like to go for a run. Malone's like, okay, go finish your workout, and Aurora's like, okay, but like, what about you? You didn't get off, and I did. Malone's like, you can make that up to me later. She tells her that after her workout that she needs to get ready to go out and get in cocktail attire. Aurora keeps thinking about how hot Malone is, but then she's upset because she tipped her hand and now she can't have like a little sparring accident. She wasted that opportunity. Yeah, if you thought with your brain instead of your clit, you could have thought about that. She feels like she has to admit to herself that she doesn't hate Malone and that it's more complicated than that. Yeah, we know. We've been here. Thank you for reiterating. She says that when she started, her plan felt rock solid. Wrong, we have been here for all stages of your plan. You knew it was shaky at best. She thinks she doesn't know if she can pull it off. When she gets back to her room, the cat is in there and it is hissing at her. She tells the cat to mind his business and she'll mind hers. She gets in the shower and then the cat is on her bed. While she's looking at the clothes, she's trying to convince herself that Malone had like an assistant pick them out. We already went over though that you admire her attention to detail. Stop lying to yourself for no reason. Aurora picks an outfit, puts makeup on, finishes with some nail polish. She's ready 5 minutes before 7. 7, and then she's putting on some strappy heels. She tells the cat to not be there when she gets back, and he starts just cleaning his paws on her bed. I love him. He makes me miss having a cat. Aurora meets up with Malone, and she's so hot. She's so hot, guys. Malone compliments Aurora, and she says, "Thank you." They get in the elevator. Malone asks Aurora what changed because earlier she was breathing fire. She wants to know if she's still sore about Malone pinning her earlier. Aurora's like, "Why would I be upset? I got off and you didn't." They're going to a place called Spindle, really on the nose.
Touch it, I say.
It's a really exclusive restaurant. Malone helps Aurora out of the car when they get there. A hostess is making some bedroom eyes at Malone when they get there and is going to take them back to a private room. Aurora does not like this. I don't like when authors used unearned jealousy as lazy character development for their story, when they're really just using it as a crutch. There, I said it. Aurora asks Malone if she's an ex, and Malone's like, "Oh, she was like an indiscretion." Malone says she didn't know that she worked at this restaurant and she wouldn't have mixed like business and pleasure. Aurora asks if she's talked to her or just iced her out. Malone says there was nothing to talk about because she knew what it was when we went into it. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I have no right to the jealousy, yes, jealousy I'm feeling, but I can empathize with the woman despite that. So you fucked her and now you come to her place of work and ignore her instead of talking? You are such an unbelievable asshole. Again, I love jealousy in books except when it's unearned. I just hate it when it's unearned. Chapter 13, Malone. Malone is confused as to why Aurora is upset about specifically about a woman she's never met. Aurora tries to be like, "It's the principle."
It's the principle of the thing, sir. It's the principle. Principle.
Aurora says that stepping on weaker people does not make you strong. It makes you a monster. Malone thinks that she's right, but that it stings that she thinks about her like that. Malone's like, "You seem to think you know a lot about me. I would never dream of policing you about how you interact with your exes and fuck buddies and clients. And you say I'm the cruel one? That's not fair." She drops her gaze and clasps her hands in front of her. "This is a two-way assignation." "Yes, it is," which also falls under my point. Aurora wrings her hands in a way that makes me want to grab her hands before she does herself harm. I manage to resist the impulse, but only for a moment. I take her hands and extract them from each other. "Use your words instead of doing this. I hate you." "Yes, you keep saying that." It might even be true. She certainly looks at me with loathing from time to time. I'm more than aware of how a person can hold two feelings simultaneously. It's complicated and messy, but that's humanity. That's not why you're doing this to your hands. I don't get why Malone is putting up with this other than she secretly likes taming brats and views this as a challenge. I truly don't get it. She's being so rude. Malone then realizes that Aurora is jealous, which Aurora denies. Malone knows that she's jealous because of how she denies it. Malone thinks this is odd because Aurora is poly. So she asks if there's something about Genevieve in particular that makes her jealous, or if it's sharing that bothers her. Aurora says none of it bothers her because she's not jealous. Malone says she doesn't have a problem with sharing, but that she's not particularly free with her charms when she's with somebody. She says she might invite someone to scene with them, but other than that, she won't be with anybody during the duration of the thing. She says that she's dated here and there, but her position of power makes that difficult. Aurora says that she really likes being shared. Good for her. Malone then thinks about keeping Aurora, even though that's absurd. It's absurd, but you keep thinking about it. Aurora says since Malone organized the contract, she can fuck her way through Carver City, and that's her right. Malone says that group play is one thing, but she isn't poly, so she won't be with anybody else while Aurora is here. Aurora says that she dislikes that she's feeling jealous. She generally is not the jealous type, and she really resented it when her former partners were jealous when she was in a relationship with them. Malone says, "Well, they were dating you. You'd think they would know what they were signing up for." And Aurora's like, "You would think, but the last three had really weird hang-ups about all the stuff that I do." Malone's like, "You have terrible taste in partners." Aurora tries to turn it around to talk about Malone, but Malone's like, "We're not talking about me." Malone wonders if Aurora gets lonely, but she knows the answer. Because sex is great, but there is like a different kind of intimacy that's missing when there are no feelings involved at all. The waiter comes to their private room and explains that they will be alone unless they are requested, aside from like bringing the courses. He then takes their drink order. Malone orders for them, and Aurora's like, I didn't want wine. Malone's like, yes you do, and you'll like this one. Bitch! Some girls have ARFID. Aurora says, you're creepy. Do you have a file full of my favorite things? Malone says, I don't need a file, I pay attention. She makes a snide remark about not needing to make files on enemies like Hades does. Aurora says, if you were him, you'd do it too. And Malone thinks to herself that she already does do it. Then why are we being hypocritical? Malone asks what her file says about her, and Aurora says that she's a good leader and that her people are well taken care of. Also that she's particularly vicious with her enemies and she likes to make examples of people. Malone says that's how she was raised. Aurora asks why she didn't just stay in Sabine Valley, and Malone says, because I wanted to rule. She thinks to herself though that she couldn't overthrow her sister who she loves. Aurora asks about her sister and notes that she thinks she's heard some trouble that they've been having over there. Malone thinks to herself that she shouldn't talk shit about her sister to anyone, including Aurora, but she does anyway because she really does want to talk about what's going on. We learn that her sister underestimated her enemy. Aurora's like, why not just kill the Payne brothers? And Malone's like, it's forbidden because they did this during a feast day and there are laws that are important to us. They won some kind of ritual combat. It sounds like those guys have reason to want their revenge, like they're justified. Undoubtedly, I stare into my wine. And they've earned it through the ritual combat. They took on 7 of the best warriors the 3 leaders had to offer and won. It's not the revenge that bothers me, it's the method. That seems rather nitpicky. There are rules, Aurora. You take your revenge with the people responsible. You don't go after those who had nothing to do with it. My hands shake and I can't tell if it's anger or sorrow. I carefully set the glass back on the table. 2 nieces and my baby brother. They are the ones paying the price for my sister's mistake. That is what I can't forgive. She laughs awkwardly. It's really weird to think about you with family. You're such a lone figure. That surprises me enough to look at her. Did you never stop to think that there's a purpose to that? When it comes to enemies, I am the only one with a target painted on my chest. No one will look at my people, at my friends, at my distant family when they only have eyes for me. I can see from her face that she never considered it, and why would she? I have spent so long being the ice bitch queen. It's a terrible sentence. It shouldn't surprise me when that's all people see. It's the sole purpose of that role, though. After all this time, it hardly feels like a role anymore. It's simply me. But it's not all of me. That's enough vulnerability. We have to go back to sex. Why write character development when you can just write sex? Chapter 14, Aurora. Aurora asks Malone if she can do something to help her family after seeing Malone all vulnerable did something to her. Malone again says no, there are rules. Aurora's like, since when have you listened to rules? Malone says that the rules are there for a reason in Sabine Valley and that if she gets involved, she's probably just gonna make it worse. Malone also says that her nieces and her brother are made of sterner stuff and that they can make it through this. She is worried though because her sister did make a big mistake and she's lost the trust of some of their people. She says that they might give the crown to one of her nieces instead, but if they skip her sister's part of the tree, Malone is next in line. Aurora points this out. Malone says that she doesn't want the crown there, especially not anymore. Aurora can't process her feelings, so she kisses Malone. I'm sure that will fix this. She slips her hand in Malone's shirt. Malone asks again why she said yes to the contract, and Aurora just kisses her again. Malone's like, you don't want to answer that, and Aurora's like, no, not really. Malone asks Aurora if her other partners know how much she uses sex to distract them. What a drive-by. I agree with her. Malone puts her hand on Aurora's devil's doorbell. If you know, you know. Malone asks if Aurora took the contract to punish her. Aurora thinks that that's too close to reality and she says, why would I want to punish you? And Malone's like, plenty of reasons. As Malone is pumping some fingers somewhere, Malone's like, because I've been ignoring you for all these years. Pretty popular, Aurora. You're everyone's favorite and yet you're always left in the dust when they find their people to settle down with. They don't see you, and the ones who do want to change you. They don't appreciate you for the gift you are. I'm suddenly terrified that Malone truly does see me. I try to keep my mouth shut, try to just enjoy this without digging myself deeper into a hole I'm not sure I can climb out of. Do you? Fierce Aurora, protective Aurora. She picks up her pace between my thighs, driving me toward as if we've done this 1,000 times before, as if she knows my body as well as I do. deadly, Aurora. Her smile is just as fierce as her eyes. Yes, I see you. I mean, you don't know that she wants to murder you, so do you really see her? Aurora gets to the end, good for her. Aurora still wants her, and Malone's like, I'm famished. Aurora goes back to being obedient, and Malone's like, don't do that. Aurora just decides she's gonna keep doing that, and Malone's like, we're not done talking. Aurora's like, what are we gonna talk about? And Malone's like, we're going to talk about you. Oh boy, chapter 15, Malone. Aurora is no rabbit, but she certainly impersonates one when she's backed into a corner. She freezes and her eyes go wide.
Silly rabbit tricks are for kids.
What is with the rabbit line? Why do we compare women to harmless animals? Is that supposed to be hot to some people? No. Malone tells Aurora that innocent act won't work on her. She thinks to herself it shouldn't bother her that Aurora keeps throwing up shields. Like, she's just another patron. But it does bother her, it does. Girl, you are just another patron. At least as far as you know. Am I the only one who thinks it's weird to try and ask really deep questions of a sex worker? Granted, I've never hired a sex worker, so I don't know what the etiquette actually is. But I would imagine asking invasive questions is not part of the deal. It is probably honestly frowned upon. They provide the service, you enjoy the service, you pay for the service, you might see them next time. What am I missing here? Malone tries to start up a conversation again, but Aurora is quiet for a hot minute. You've been in the underworld for 9 years. Yes, the word is clipped and icy. Hades always did like to rob the cradle. Not that 21 is all that young. By 21, I'd already left Sabine Valley behind and come here with the intent to take a piece of territory for myself. But Aurora is not like me, and we've more than established that. She goes tense beside me. It's not like that, isn't it? I'm provoking her, but asking in a direct way will guarantee she shuts me down. I have to rile her a bit. 21 and fresh face, it's no wonder he made a deal with you. If he was really what you seem to be suggesting, he would have had me working there when I originally made the deal 8 years earlier. Shock stills me. She went to Hades when she was 13. I don't know why that surprises me. At 13, I was hardly innocent. Amazons don't shelter their children in the same way civilians tend to. But that doesn't change the fact that she was a child when Hades accepted that bargain. Something barbed and dangerous slithers through my chest. Did he touch you? Of course not. She sounds so horrified I believe her. He gave me what I asked for, patted me on the head, and told me to come back when I was 21. Malone is actually asking some really good questions. She asks more follow-up questions because in her words, grooming a child for working in the underworld is unacceptable. Yes, it is. I agree. Malone feels really relieved that Aurora actually had to go to Hades when she was 21 to get the whole thing started. He didn't come bother her at all. Malone then tries to figure out in her head what she would have done if he was a groomer. She is still pissed that Hades made a deal with a 13-year-old. She also wants to know what would lead a 13-year-old to make a deal with the underworld to begin with. Aurora gives her a vague answer about needing the money to protect someone that was important to her. Malone says that a bunch of money for 9 years of Aurora's life does not seem fair. Aurora says that she just didn't have the privilege Malone had. Shots fired, I agree. Malone thinks to herself, shit, I'm making this worse rather than better. And she's also unsure why she cares so much about the deal. Girl, be so for real, you know why. You're 41. Malone asks about Aurora's parents, and Aurora says both of her parents are dead and that she was raised by her grandmother. She also says that her grandmother wasn't aware of the deal. Malone was like, damn, she was not watching you, and Aurora is like,
I think she looks beautiful. She's doing the best she can, Seuss.
Whoa! Touched a nerve there.
Malone asks how much money she could have possibly needed, and Aurora says it's none of your damn business, which is like objectively true. I mean, if Malone wants to pay back all the money that Aurora spent literally keeping her mother alive because she put her mother in a coma, I think that would be great restitution. I think that would be a great start. Aurora says, hey, it's nearly finished. There are no dragons to fight, and even if there were, do you think I would ask you for your help? This stings Malone, and she asks, was it worth the price? Aurora says, of course. And then she kind of stops and is like, well, at least I think it is. Ask me in like a year. She says that she lost someone and she's not handling it well. Malone says, I'm really sorry for your loss, and Aurora flinches. Malone asks if she's going to continue at the club after she's done with the deal, and Aurora's like, yes, I really enjoy what I do. I honestly love this so much because I hate when sex workers who are portrayed as liking their jobs a lot end up leaving their job for their significant other. I think that it's a really great step in the right direction to not do that. Malone fantasizes about being with Aurora forever this this is going so well, guys, according to everybody's plans. Malone decides they're going to go, and Aurora's like, oh, we're not gonna have dessert. Malone says you can order dessert in. She's still lecturing herself in her head that Aurora isn't for keeping. And I'm not really sure why, because from her POV, doesn't know she killed her mom. Why couldn't you pursue a relationship with her? I hate when books make up reasons why, like, they can't be together or they shouldn't pursue anything, but it's completely one-sided and it doesn't make any sense. Like, the other person is just making up reasons and it's dumb. Aurora asks about the bill and Malone's like, it's already taken care of. Malone's like, keep up or I'm gonna carry you. Aurora's like, if you carry me, I'm gonna flash everybody in this restaurant that we walk by. And Malone's like, yes. What is with people in public indecency? I get that there's the thrill aspect of like getting caught or whatever, but in front of people's dinners, in front of people's kids, have you no shame? They make it to the car and Malone's having a hard time not humping Aurora as soon as they get in the car. You'd think they were teenagers by how they act, honestly. When they get home, Malone's like, go to bed, and Aurora's like, that's it? Malone says yes, and she's gonna go call her only friend Ursa. The gist of the conversation goes Ursa being like, you want to keep Aurora and you should, because you clearly want to. Malone says thanks and like, yeah, I guess I needed that shove. Ursa also offers support for the Sabine Valley thing in case Malone wants to do anything about it. Malone says thanks but no thanks. The chapter ends with Malone being determined to keep Aurora. I'm pretty sure both parties need to consent, but again, Kingdom Hearts rules, so who knows? Chapter 16, Aurora. After dinner, Aurora has found that the cat has shredded all of her bedding and peed on the bed. The cat is nowhere to be found and Aurora's all like, of course he wouldn't be here for the consequences of his actions. I thought that was a bit funny, but it's a cat. Like, Malone comes into Aurora's room to Aurora obviously being pissed off about the cat, and she starts comparing Malone to the cat. Malone's like, he's apparently feeling threatened. Aurora's like, or he's just a dick, and Malone's like, yeah, or he's just a dick. Aurora finds out that Malone's cat Rogue destroys a piece of furniture at least quarterly. I thought that was just part of owning a cat. I have dogs, so I don't know. Aurora is internally thinking to herself that this makes Malone more complicated, even though her actions are unforgivable. Just owns a cat. Also, these characters always go in circles in these kinds of books, and I really wish there was less of it. I wish romance leads would think about other things instead of going over and over and over and over the same things again and again and again and again and again. It's season binding all over again. Go check out those reviews. Aurora just blames this on being tired. They go to the kitchen and Malone pours her a glass of wine. Malone asks if she has any family left other than her grandmother, and Aurora says no. And she also reveals that her grandmother passed away peacefully 6 years ago. She thinks to herself though that there's no peace when it comes to her mother. This is a great time for all my viewers to remember you should get an advance directive so that your parents or your spouse or somebody so-and-so can't just decide to keep you on life support for 20 years. Not that that's possible, but I'm just saying. Malone says she'll have the mattress and bedding replaced tomorrow, but for tonight, she can sleep with Malone tonight because the couch is really cute, but uncomfortable. Aurora thinks to herself that this is her chance, but she feels a stone in her stomach about it, and she's just actually really tired. Aurora tells Malone that this is a mistake, and Malone's like, I know the pitfalls of it, I'm okay with it. Aurora asks Malone if she invites people into her bed often, and Malone's like, no, never. Because Aurora is just that special. Aurora's like, no, never mind, put me on the couch, and Malone counters with, tell me your safe word. And Aurora says it's Thorn. And then Malone's like, Aurora, do you want to use your safe word? And Aurora's like, no. And Malone's like, okay, get in then. Get in my room and strip. Malone comes in with Aurora's hair wrap and her toothbrush and asks if there's anything else from in that guest room she needs. And Aurora says, no, I can't lie. Malone is really hot sometimes. I can admit that, okay? Aurora brushes her teeth and gets ready for bed. Malone comes in completely naked and Aurora is shook. Aurora thinks about how Malone has seen her naked dozens of times at the underworld, but she's looking at her now like it's the first time. Romance. Aurora's like, you put me in a nightgown last time because it was cold, and Malone is like, yeah, because you were out in the air, but my body heat and the blankets are going to be plenty warm for you. Aurora is about to argue some more and Malone just commands her to go to bed. Aurora is very tired and she's also wondering if she should say goodnight or they should kiss. Malone takes care of that and is just like, just go to bed. At a certain point, Malone clearly thinks she's asleep and she like gently touches Aurora's temple. I don't understand what's happening. Things were fine as long as we didn't speak about beyond beyond kink, but now I can't stop seeing facets of this woman, how tired she is, how much she bears, how her people seem to respect and even love her. Did my mother's people love her? I don't know. I don't remember much of her because she kept me so separate from the world she moved in. I lived with my grandmother even before the fight that put my mother into a coma. My grandmother was a hard woman, beaten down by the world. She's the one who taught me how to be strong, how to blend in so people would continually underestimate me, always focused on survival at all costs. From the way she spoke, she thought my mother was the worst kind of fool for grabbing at power beyond her reach, almost as if she believed my mother got what she deserved because of it. I exhale slowly. It doesn't matter. No one deserves what happened to my mother. Malone could have stopped the attack at any time. From the reports I've unearthed in the underworld, she delivered one last kick to ensure my mother stayed down. The doctors can't conclusively say that the last blow is responsible for the coma, but if not that, then what? Next to me, Malone's breathing has evened out, her body relaxed in sleep. Now's the time to move, to climb on top of her and pin a pillow to her face, to do something except lie here and count every breath she takes. I just need to move, to put myself into motion, to ... Maybe it's because my parents were abusive, but I can't imagine being this obsessed with a mother who neglected and abandoned you and you don't even know. I know that grief and feelings are weird, but it's just like hard for me to relate to, you know? But we see Aurora really softening to Malone, and it did not take a lot of time. If you killed somebody that I cared about so brutally and so viciously, I personally would never forgive you, no matter how good you were at sex. But I'm vindictive. I'm a Scorpio. Chapter 17, Malone. Malone wakes up to Aurora on top of her, and Malone finds this kind of nice. It's so easy to imagine waking up like this every morning. We're a long way off from that place with so many fucking barriers between us, but the promise of something more remains. I'm not sure what happened last night that put us even more at odds, just like I'm not sure how to retake the distance lost. I tend to go after every problem like it's a battle to be won, but that approach won't work with Aurora. She's just as stubborn as I am, and she'll dig in her heels and fight me until her last breath if I try to bully her. No, this will require some finesse, some ... seduction. We love a woman trying to woo another woman. If only she didn't do that really shitty thing when Aurora was a child that Malone doesn't know is related to her in any way. Aw, dang it. Malone thinks about how soft and strong Aurora is and thinks that she's attracted to strength. Same girl. Aurora wakes up and is like, let's pretend this never happened. Malone's like, in a minute, because she doesn't want them to create more distance between them. She decides that talking won't work, which feels a little bit lazy on this author's part, I can't lie. But since she's much better at writing sex than plot or characters, I will allow it this one time. Malone kisses her instead of talking. This evolves into sex immediately. For some reason, right as they're about to get really sexy, Malone asks about children.
That's the sound of the police!
I would be pulling out my safe word so fast. Absolutely not. There is no better way to make a girl shrivel up than to ask her about children if you're about to get freaky. No thank you. Aurora says she doesn't know, but she also just hasn't met the right person. She then asks if Malone wants them. Malone says, I think so, but I just don't feel it fits her character that well. Let me know in the comments if you think it fits, but I personally just don't see it. Aurora's like, why are you talking about babies? And I'm like, girl, I'm sure you can figure it out. Malone doesn't answer anyway, and she tells her to spread her legs. I won't go into too much detail about the Smex scene, but just know that Malone says that if Aurora was her, she'd make her pierce her devil's doorbell too, not just her upstairs.
That's the sound of the police!
Hello? You cannot make someone pierce their body. I know that it's potentially partially kind of a kink thing, and that she could say no, but that is your coochie. You could damage it forever if you're not careful. And also, based on the nipple situation, I don't think she should be getting anything else pierced. After Malone allows Aurora to finish, Aurora wants Malone to sit on her face. So that's what they do, good for them. They get off a bunch of times, just squeezing, feeling, loving. And then Malone's phone is buzzing on like the 5th phone call, and she's like, okay, I actually do have to do some stuff. Malone's like, I have to go, and Aurora's like, why do you have to go? Malone's like, you're nothing but trouble. But she stalks off to the playroom, she picks some kind of toy, and she comes back and says, you need to get off 6 times and record it and send it to me. Aurora's like, if you wanted a sex tape, you could have just asked. And Malone's like, no, I only want your face when you finish. That's it. That's it. Aurora tries to be bratty and is like, what happens if I don't do that? And Malone's like, well, then you won't get off for the rest of the 2 weeks. And then she leaves. Chapter 18, Aurora. As soon as Malone leaves the room to go to work, I flop down on the bed and curse hard. I am a fucking failure. Not only did I not take advantage of the opportunity being in Malone's bed offered, but I woke up humping her like a horny teenager. Worse, for those few hours with her mouth on my skin and my hands on her body, I forgot I hated her at all. There was no room for anything but sheer need. What the hell am I doing? I pick up the phone and stare at it. I already know I'm going to obey her command. No matter what questions I asked, there was never a drop of a doubt that I'd be recording myself owing and sending the videos to her. I hate to agree, but you are a failure, my dude. I don't know why you're doing this when you supposedly want to kill her. I feel like you've had a ton of opportunities that you have not taken. Aurora decides to call Electo, and that sounds like a terrible idea. Electo is like, do you need an out? And Aurora's like, no, I'm fine. The rest of the call goes with Electo being like, this ends one of two ways. You kill her, or you can't go through with it. I don't think she considered the extended option of number 2, which is she doesn't go through with it and she gets married to her. Electo challenges Aurora on how well she's handling it, which is not well at all. We've been over this. Electo also brings up that Malone was perfectly within her rights to do what she did to Aurora's mom. She says it doesn't make any less shitty and it doesn't mean it will hurt Aurora any less, but that it's true. Electo says it doesn't make any sense for Aurora to throw away her life over something that happened 20 years ago. I agree. This just feels like a waste. Aurora says, if I wanted a lecture, I would have called Hades. And Electo's like, that's a great idea. Why don't we loop Hades into this call? And then you can tell him why you didn't tell him that you pulled the plug on your mother. Aurora tells Electo that this is harder than she expected because Malone isn't what she expected. Electo is like, it's almost like you like her. And Aurora's like, that's absurd. Is it? It is. And it's the plot of this book for some reason. Enemies to lovers is only done well by a couple of authors, I swear to God. Tamsin Muir, if you can hear me, save me. Put out Electo the Ninth so I can rest in peace. The Electo of this book is like, are you trying to convince me or are you trying to convince yourself? Aurora is convinced that Electo is wrong this time, even though we all know that Electo isn't wrong. After the call, Aurora flops down and thinks about how she really wants to send those videos. Girl, you are so obvious right now. She starts doing it, but in like a malicious compliance kind of way, because she wants to make Malone vulnerable instead.
Sure, Jan.
Whatever you say, girl. Chapter 19, Malone. I'm on like day 3 here. If you people don't leave me alone, I swear to God, I have to take a shower after this. Maybe it's day 4? I don't know. You're not supposed to wash your curly hair all the time. Leave me be. Malone is at a meeting and Aurora has already sent 2 videos. Ooh la la. Malone cannot wait to watch them, even though she knows she probably shouldn't. She gets super corny after watching it. We can't go into too much detail. Again, read the book if you want. I do think the smut is worth it. Support your local library. Aurora texts Malone and asks if she's alone. Malone says she only has a few minutes before the next meeting. Aurora video calls her and she is in the bubble bath. She goads Malone into giving into temptation and getting off at work, even though it's wrong. They both get off, yay. I hate work stuff. I hate it. Maybe it's because I hate my job. Who knows? Malone tells herself that she's gonna Aurora later when they spar. Good for them. Wish I cared more about these characters, but beggars can't be choosers. Sarah tells Malone at work that all the shipments are fine pretty much. Do I know what any of these people do? No, I do not. Sarah does say that one is running a little bit late. Malone says war is bad for business. Do I know what is going on? No, but I do not care. All of Malone's family is safe and Malone says that her sister will figure it out. Sarah's like, what happens if your sister doesn't? Malone's like, then my niece will. Malone doesn't want to be a traitor and I guess she has some morals. Apparently. Malone asked Sarah if it would make Sarah feel better if Malone called her sister. And Sarah's like, if it would make you feel better. Malone's like, yes it would. Malone hops on the phone with her sister. It doesn't go super well because her sister is adamant that she has things under control. But Malone is just worried about her family. Malone asks to be updated on the situation and her sister promises that she will update her. Malone offers assistance and her sister is like, I'll call you if I need you. Malone closes out the chapter by telling Sarah that it's handled and to make sure that Aurora is at the gym when she's done work. Chapter 20, Aurora. We're back with Aurora and she has knocked out all of those big O's. She was really turned on by Malone's heavy breathing on the phone. Good for her. Malone doesn't respond to the rest of the videos and Aurora kind of thinks to herself, well, it's probably a good thing if she's tiring of me because I can't kill her. But she also doesn't want to leave yet because she doesn't want to have to confront the grief that she'll have to when she returns to the underworld. She thinks that she should have listened to Alecto. I know that hindsight is 20/20, but I will never forgive this book for not committing to the murder aspect. I was so pissed off because I wanted there to be actual stakes and there never were any, not really. Am I the only person who is still committed to enemies to lovers? Me and Tamsin Mirror. Aurora starts thinking about her mother, or rather the fantasy of her mother. She wonders if you can fail someone you barely remember, and here come the stupid rationalizations. You can fail someone that you barely remember. Congrats. She thinks that she's a terrible daughter, and I agree. Aurora gets to the gym and the spar between her and Malone is super quick because Malone is in a mood after that phone call. Aurora's like, "Did you have a hard day?" And Malone says something like that. Then Aurora offers to talk about it, but she instantly regrets it. Malone says maybe later. Malone just goes straight to revealing Aurora's chest area. She tells Aurora that she'll be naked for the rest of the day, and how is that different from any of the other time that they've been together? Answer my question. How is it any different? There's some finger action, and as that's happening, Sarah walks in to update Malone about some business stuff. Why does not a single person care about privacy in this universe? You're telling me no one finds privacy sexy? In this world where everyone is hooking up in public? I don't believe you. That would be the real taboo and kink of this book. They talk about the shipment while Aurora is still getting finger blasted. Sarah leaves and Malone accuses Aurora of holding out on her because she doesn't want to get off in front of Sarah, and that she has to if Malone wants her to. The scream I scrummed, what the fuck? Aurora thinks that being humiliated is hot though, and she gets off to this thought. Aurora also thinks at one point that Malone lives rent-free in her head. Girl, we know we're trapped there. It's your chapter. Malone resumes the finger action and takes some photos that Aurora consents to, and then she tells her to come along. Not come, but come. You know what I mean. But in this book, I guess you never know. Malone leads her to the sauna, and then Aurora waits for her while Malone does, I don't know, gets undressed or something. Malone's like, relax in there. When Malone comes back, Aurora doesn't want to relax though, and she gets on her knees immediately. And she starts checking her out and she motorboats her. That is not hot. I don't care what anyone says. You can argue with me in the comments. Motorboating, not hot. Chapter 21, Malone. Malone is letting Aurora touch her, and Aurora asks if the shipments often come up short. Malone asks if she's mining for information. Aurora's like, not really. It just seems like something you might want to handle yourself. Malone says when you are the leader of a territory, you can't just drop a nuclear bomb on every single situation. Did World War II happen in this world? See, I keep asking questions about the world building, and I'm not supposed to do that. They go over how people fear Malone and how power has a price, and I don't care about it. And the author doesn't care about it either because Malone tells Aurora to use her mouth down south. She then adds 2 fingers. All I'm saying is a bit of development really could have helped me like this book a little bit better, just a smidge. They kiss, Malone says let's go, they put robes on, and then they take showers back at the penthouse. Aurora says she doesn't understand Malone, and Malone's like, do you need to? Aurora says that she would like to. Malone is like, why do you sound so unhappy about that? Aurora's like, because it's irritating, because it's easier to hate you. Malone says that she doesn't understand Aurora either. I don't understand any of you, to be honest. Sarah's the only one I understand. And the cat. I understand the cat. She says she doesn't think that Aurora would be content to be the pampered princess forever, and also that she can only rise so far in Hades' territory. Aurora just kind of admits she doesn't really know what she wants. Now that the bargain is coming to an end with Hades, she really doesn't know what she wants to do with herself. Aurora gives a speech about how she doesn't fit in and how she doesn't want to fit in. So stop pitying me.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in. Have you ever seen me without this stupid hat on? That's weird.
Malone says, I don't pity you, and tells her to come along. Aurora asks where they're going, and Malone says nowhere. But she has plans for her. I'm sure the plans are more sex. Don't you guys ever get tired or sore? I'm just asking. Malone tells Aurora that all the clothes she bought for her are hers, and she should consider them as a tip. Now that's the kind of tip I can get down with. They talk about the cat again, not important to the story. Doesn't add anything either, I don't feel. They go to the kitchen, and Malone starts heating up a meal. We learn that she doesn't cook. She has a chef that like prepares meals for her weekly or whatever. That is my literal dream. Sign me up. I'm so sick of cooking. Malone's considerate enough to ask if she's allergic to anything, which I appreciate. She brings out some wine and they sit down next to each other. I sip my wine and study her. She looks good here in my home, dressed in the clothes I purchased her. A feeling like possession rises up in me, but I stifle it. This isn't the time or place for such messy emotions, not yet. I need her to want me first, crave me, desire me like a fire in her blood that she never wants to douse. Then and only then will she be mine. Oh look, another super possessive lead. Don't I just love that? I've told you guys that I do like jealousy and possessiveness in books. I think I'm one of the few that enjoy it. But in the context of Aurora being a sex worker who hates her, it really gives me the ick. Chapter 22, Aurora. Malone asks again while they're having dinner what drove Aurora to make her deal with Hades. Aurora says that it's irrelevant, but Malone's like, I don't think that it is. Part of Aurora is enjoying the protectiveness Malone shows her. We know, girl. We know. Aurora says again that it was something she chose for herself and that it's not worth fighting the underworld over. Malone surmises that this is not a happy story. The soft stroke of her finger down the side of my face has me opening my eyes to find her searching my expression. I'm not sure what she finds there because she nods almost to herself. Growing up as an Amazon is very different from a lot of other places. We value our children above all else. All we do, the ambition, the hostile takeovers, the territory skirmishes, are to pave a better life forward for them. We spoil them and let them have free reign until they hit high school. Then they begin training in earnest. I swallow it hard. Why are you telling me this? Because it seems that something went sideways during your childhood and I'm sorry for it. Girl, when you find out it was you are going to regret this. Malone explains more about how the kids are raised. They give the kids free reign, but they're having them sparring as soon as they can walk, and all I could picture was a tiny toddler fight club. I cannot take it seriously. She talks about the holidays, but I don't really think they matter that much in the context anymore. We know about the main one that's important. We don't really need to know about the rest. I know I said I wanted more world building, but this is not what I had in mind, to be honest with you. They go to one of the sex cabinets and Malone chooses a strap. We're finally here. Honestly, there are not enough of those kind of scenes in books, and that is a hill I will die on. I wish that there were more. They eat dinner together and Aurora is thinking to herself that falling for Malone would be failure on a whole nother level. And I agree with her, but that is the plot of this book, so let's award Aurora the biggest loser of the book award. Congrats, girl, we knew you could do it. And she's looking at me like that. The temptation to close my eyes is nearly overwhelming. Maybe if I pretend I didn't see it, I can ignore the way it makes me feel. As if she's wrapped me in a cozy blanket and held me close. As if she cares. Oh, this is bad. This is very, very bad. It's been less than a week and she's already undermined everything I thought I believed in. What more can she do given the rest of the assignation? Will I be panting after her like a love-struck fool when she sends me on my way? Because she will send me on my way. This isn't forever, it can't be. Even without our history, I have no intention to stop working at the underworld anytime soon. I love it there. Alecto and the others are the family I've chosen. The work is fulfilling and fun. There are plenty of people who frequent the place who wouldn't have an issue with that, but Malone doesn't strike me as a person who shares outside of the odd scene here and there. Choosing her means giving up all of that. What am I even saying? Bad enough that I can't follow through on my revenge and I can't even pretend that I want to. Bad enough that I lust after my enemy. Bad enough that now I see her as a complicated person rather than the villain I've painted her. Choosing her, wanting to do more than fuck and scene to actually spend time with her? How can I possibly want that? God, I'm in danger of losing my mind. I feel like I'm standing in the middle of a storm pulling this way and that, threatening to tear me into pieces with the force of conflicting desires. It's too much. It's far too much. My appetite disappears and I spend the rest of the meal moving my food around on the plate. If Malone notices, she doesn't comment. I hate that I appreciate the mercy. What would I say after all? I'm upset because I should want to kill you, but all I want to do is sit at your feet and worship you for the next 10 years or so. I really am a traitorous daughter. Yeah, no shit, girl, this is a mistake. What are we doing? I'm glad that we agree that you were a terrible daughter, and you're an idiot for thinking you wouldn't fall in love with her when you literally fall in love with every single person you have sex with. But here we are, you big fat idiot. Chapter 23, Malone. Malone notices that something is up with Aurora immediately. She's just been pushing around her food for like 10 minutes. So she's like, And again, she is so obvious it's annoying. Malone brings up Aurora doing this because she lost someone important to her recently. Malone thinks about when her mother died and how hard it was for her. Your instincts are telling you something. Keep going with that thought. She knows that Aurora doesn't trust her enough to talk to her about what's going on, but she will let her scene together, and that way it will keep her in her body. I think maybe you should talk before you decide that. I missed the communication aspect of things that was happening earlier. Aurora asks her if she's going to press for information, and Malone is like, do you want to talk about it? Aurora says no, and Malone's like, well, there's your answer. They go into the playroom and Malone asks Aurora what she needs. Aurora says that she hasn't been able to cry and she really just needs to let it all out. Aurora gets naked and bends over the bench like she's told to. Malone chooses a strap curved for you know what, and she also grabs a cane. There's a caning scene, woo, at least these scenes aren't boring or written terribly. Malone thinks to herself during the caning that she's falling in love with this little asshole. I wish I was telling you some other words, I truly do. But that's what's written, and if you don't believe me, go look at page 204, right near the bottom. After the caning, there is strap sex until Aurora is sobbing. Malone goes into aftercare mode immediately and like holds her, brings her down to the bedroom, is like, you know, being there for her. Malone is glad that she could be there for Aurora because she thinks to herself that she loves her, but she's going to lose her. This scene gave me whiplash, but like not in an unbearable way. Chapter 24, Aurora. Aurora wakes up in Malone's arms. She is still upset because Malone is the reason that she's grieving right now, but she's conflicted because Malone was there for her when she sobbed. Girl, she doesn't even know why you were actually crying. She thinks about how she can't kill her, but she can't fall for her. Girl, too late. Malone says to Aurora that you're thinking very hard over there and asks if she wants to talk about it, and Aurora says no, because why communicate anything? Malone wants to talk to Aurora about the assignation stuff, and Aurora's like, please no, not yet. Malone hesitates but says, can we talk about this before we end the thing? And Aurora's like, yes. She knows she's being a coward, but that doesn't make her explain anything because she's a pussy. Aurora decides to make it up to Malone by rocking Malone's world. When isn't sex the answer in this book? After the sex, Malone decides to run Aurora a bath because she's going to be very sore today, and good, I'm glad you're acknowledging that hitting somebody repeatedly would do that. Aurora thanks her for last night and says she didn't have to do any of that. Malone says it was a pleasure to take care of her needs, and that did it for me a little bit. I really want my wife to run me a bath, but we don't have a bathtub, and I'm sick of living somewhere with no tub. Boo. Malone asks if she can walk, and Aurora's like, if I wanted you to carry me, would you? Malone's like, I would like to carry you also, and so she just does that. Aurora sits in the bath, and Malone massages her temples for her. That sounds like heaven. Again, I just want a bathtub. It's been 9 years. Aurora thinks to herself that she loves everything they've been doing together and that she likes a lot about Malone. She can't say anything because she's a coward though. Chapter 25, Malone. Malone is getting frustrated that Aurora never wants to talk about it. They're still having great sex, but Malone is just itching to have the talk. I can't say I blame her. I love communicating. Malone also knows that Aurora is holding something back. Malone decides she's going to tell Aurora that she cares about her, and Aurora is like, please don't say that. Let's just enjoy the last 3 days of this. That's definitely what you want to hear when you're getting vulnerable with someone, particularly the sex worker you hire. Aurora starts asking a bunch of follow-up questions about why Malone staged the coup. Malone is like, this is what's been bothering her? Yes, now I need you to connect some dots that haven't been connecting. Basically, she was ruled to be queen, but she was given second place, so she decided to rule somewhere else because she didn't want to be a traitor. She came to Carver City because there were more opportunities. Malone explains that the people were very unhappy with Aurora's mom in leadership and describes Aurora's mom as a very weak leader. Malone really wants to know what this has to do with the end of their contract. Girl, if you don't start thinking with your brain instead of your clay, I am gonna lose it. Aurora says she heard she almost killed the other person when she took over. Malone says that she hates when coups are backstabbing and that she prefers to do coups front stabbing. They fought and Malone won. Aurora is upset because her mom was down and Malone kept going. Girl, how you can even look at her in the eye is crazy. Let's see how they decide to justify this by the end. Malone says that Amazons don't leave enemies at their back, which just seems like a weak explanation. Malone is still trying to do the math in her head, but she's not coming up with anything because she's a freaking nitwit apparently. Malone asks who she was to her and Aurora says her mother. Malone's like, that's impossible, and Aurora's like, it's really not. Malone said that she had researched her and that she had no family. Aurora explains that she lived with her grandmother because her mother didn't want anyone to hurt her. Malone realizes she can't remember what Aurora's mom even looks like because it's been 20 years, and at least that's a realistic explanation why she didn't see Aurora and go, that lady that I put in a coma. Malone says that she didn't know, and Aurora asks if it would have even mattered. And Malone says no. Malone figures out that it was Aurora who moved her mother to a private clinic and asks her if her mother is still alive. Aurora says no because she pulled her off of life support right before this contract started. I'm sorry my actions hurt you. At that, she flares to life. That is the shittiest of apologies. You're not sorry you hurt her. I won't lie to her, not even in this. No, I'm not. She was a weak leader, petty and cruel, and if I didn't take control, someone else would have staged a coup. Everyone looked at her and saw an opportunity. Stop it. I lean forward, knowing that she'll hate me after this, but unable to stop. Why do you think she sent you away, Aurora? Because she knew she wasn't strong enough to keep you safe. I was in this territory for a month to observe her, and during that time, there wasn't a vice she met that she didn't embrace fully. Even her generals were sharpening their knives and eyeing her back. She wouldn't have lasted the year. Stop it. She swipes a hand across her face. It doesn't excuse what you did, what you took from me. No, I suppose it doesn't. I clench my hands to keep from reaching for her. With this new information, it's easy enough to understand why Aurora said yes to this assignation. The one mystery I could never quite answer, not to my satisfaction. Lust isn't enough of a driver for her, not when she can fulfill that desire filled with anyone she crooks a finger at in the underworld. How are you going to do it? She blinks. What? You came here to get revenge, correct? An eye for an eye is very biblical of you, but I can't fault the logic. Wait, is the Bible in this universe? That doesn't make any sense! Whatever. You were going to kill me, or at least attempt it. It feels like something is stuck in my throat, something sharp and jagged and far too large. How were you going to do it? She hadn't brought in any weapons, I would have known. I hadn't decided. This is literally insane. Also, this is the drama that I wanted partway through, not with 2 chapters left. There's literally less than 25 pages left. Why did you squeeze all of the conflict into the end just so we could have a 3rd act breakup? No one likes those. Malone thinks to herself that she would have done the same exact thing in Aurora's shoes, just on a much faster timeline. But guys, her Fifi is all very hurt. Aurora admits that she doesn't only hate Malone, and Malone's like, it just sounds like you lost your nerve. Aurora says that isn't it, and sorry if I'm not as inclined to murder as you. I push to my feet. I don't crowd her though, no matter how much I want to. Yes, Aurora, paint yourself as the helpless damsel instead of the ruthless hunter. Others might believe that lie, but it doesn't work on me. I'm not a ruthless hunter. Lies. Gods, this hurt. See, there are gods. Why is there the Bible? Whatever. Gods, this hurts. I didn't expect it to hurt so much. You spent 10 days fucking me, letting me hold you, talking with me, coaxing me to let you in. All the while you were thinking of ways to kill me. I shake my head. You've accomplished your goal. What are you talking about? You might not have wielded a literal blade, but you've broken my fucking heart. I turn away. Get out. Sorrow will take you back to the underworld. Bam! Malone tells her not, under any circumstances, tell anyone who's not from the underworld what she had planned to do, because Malone's people might try to kill her. Aurora's like, why protect me? Shouldn't you just kill me? And Malone thinks to herself she should, but she can't. Malone says goodbye and that she's truly sorry for all the pain she caused Aurora. Chapter 26, Aurora. Aurora is very upset because she did not expect it to hurt this much, but she's fallen for Malone. Yeah, we know. We've been here. We know. She's crying when they get back to the underworld, and Alecto's like, are you okay? Sara's like, she's fine. Now get out of my car. Iconic. Aurora isn't even upset that they're mad at her and thinks that she deserves it. Alecto gets in the elevator with Aurora and asks if Malone hurt her. Aurora's like, no, I hurt her, and then tells Alecto that she told Malone the truth. Alecto says you need to talk to Hades, but if you go in there looking like that, he is gonna tear apart Malone's territory, and he's gonna start some shit we can't take back, so you need to get your act together. Aurora's like, what's wrong with me? Why her? But then she's like, actually, I've got this. Alecto asks her if she needs the training room or a bottle of whiskey, and Aurora's like, both. Aurora's like, okay, change when you're done, we'll spar, then drink. Aurora meets up with Hades in his office, and he tells her she looks terrible. He gives her a drink and she tries to argue because she's planning on drinking later, and he says, fucking drink the drink. He wants to know why she didn't tell him about her mother's death. Aurora knows that he's worried about her. He found out because the facility called to inform him that the payments were no longer necessary like a few days after the fact. He wanted someone to go and collect her, but none of his subordinates would go and get her because they were all on Team Aurora. He says that he's sorry for her loss, and Aurora's saying she was starting to resent her mother, and he tells her that that's human. Is that why you went to Malone? Because it's easier to hate her than it is to hate yourself. I flinch. She put my mother in a coma and took away any chance I ever had of knowing her. Hades takes my hand. Do you want the comforting lie, or are you finally ready for the hard truth? I don't want hard truths. I just want to wrap up in a blanket and close my eyes and wait for the world to stop spinning in the wrong direction. Wait for the hole in my chest to scar over. to check out from reality in a way I've never allowed myself to before. I set down the empty whiskey glass. What I want is not what I need. I have been a coward long enough. I take a deep breath. I probably won't thank you for the hard truth, but tell me anyway. Your mother wouldn't have lasted the year. If Malone didn't do it, someone else would have, and they would have done it in a far crueler fashion. He holds my gaze. I understand you're blaming her. I sympathize. But do you want to know what the territory was like under your mother's rule? He continues before I have a chance to respond. Crime was at an all-time high, and everyone suffered because she wouldn't make rules, let alone enforce them. Innocents were harmed because she was a weak leader. Impossible not to compare that with the reports I've all but memorized about the territory now. Stable, everyone kept in tight check by Malone and her inner circle. She's given everyone fucking benefits. The territory is flourishing under her rule, and even though I've tried to find fault with it, I can't. I clear my throat. Why didn't you tell me that before? You weren't ready to hear it. He gives my hand a squeeze and sits back. I'm not certain you're ready to hear it now, but your mother finally passing isn't what's putting that look on your face, is it? That's right, folks. We're justifying putting a woman in a coma because she was a weak leader. You heard it first, everybody. She deserved to be beaten into a coma. Aurora is like, what type of person does it make me if I care about the woman who killed my mother? Hades reveals that Malone paid for the first 3 years of her mother being hospitalized, and she went longer than doctors would have recommended. But he's saying it like this somehow absolves her. I don't get this book. That doesn't make it any better. But this is dark romance. Dark, edgy dark. I am Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Raven Way. Hades asks how many current leaders killed the person before them to take their position, and then he goes on to list some. Again, just because a bunch of people did it doesn't mean you should. If all of your friends are jumping off a bridge, should you do that? Aurora says that they were monsters, and Hades like, you think those monsters didn't have people who loved them, friends and family? He reiterates again that her mother hurt people, that she wasn't a good leader, and just because Aurora loves her doesn't mean that she was a good leader. Aurora's like, I don't know if that changes anything. And Hades is like, that's for you to figure out. Aurora says Malone won't wait for her, and he's like, you would be surprised what Malone might do if you give her a chance. He also warns her that Meg, Tink, and Alecto are all going to mob her the second she leaves this office, but she thinks that it's a great thing that her friends are here. Aurora says, I've never felt this way with someone before, but it's not comfortable. He says love rarely is. If we both fell for our enemies, what does that make us? Really smart or really foolish? Aurora. Hades smiles. It's warm and soft and changes his entire face. It makes us very, very lucky. No, it just makes you stupid. Aurora texts Malone and tells her that she needs time to think. Malone is like, I think you made yourself perfectly clear. Aurora's like, did you mean it when you said you care for me? And Malone says that she meant it. Aurora asks for some time to figure things out. Malone is like, I don't like texting about this. Come see me when you're ready to fucking talk. Aurora asks if she'll wait, and Malone says that she will. Aurora ends the chapter knowing that she wants Malone. Well, that happened fast. Chapter 27, Malone. Our girl Malone is not doing well at all. She knows that Aurora isn't coming back, even though she texted that she was weeks ago. Again, they have spent more time apart now than they did falling in love. They spent 10 days having sex with each other. Yeah. She asks how someone could love someone who put their mom in a coma, and yeah, I agree. I have the same fucking question, my guy. Malone has been useless at work. Sarah comes in and says she looks like a mess, and that if Aurora can't see how priceless you are, fuck her. She already did. And they offer to toss Aurora off a building. Malone does not want that and commands that there be no accidents, and that Sarah tell everybody on staff that there are to be no fucking accidents happening to Aurora. Sarah's like, I was kidding. Sarah asks why Malone doesn't just chase her down and bring her back. Malone says that if she chooses her, it has to be real, not because she overwhelmed her. And I can actually seriously respect that. Thankfully, someone's thinking. Sarah's like, you love her. Malone admits to it immediately. Sarah's like, I should probably tell you she's waiting in the lobby then. Malone's like, you're just telling me this now? And Sarah's like, yeah, if you didn't say that you were in love with her, I was gonna send her away. I love a real ride or die friend. They have a little back and forth with each other, and the gist is, as long as Aurora doesn't hurt Malone, Sarah is just gonna stay out of it. Malone has Sarah send Aurora to the penthouse. Malone fixes herself up a little bit before Aurora gets there. God's her voice. I close my eyes and take a slow breath. Just because she's here doesn't mean this is going to go the way I desperately want it get to. She might be here to tell me that my membership to the underworld is revoked, or simply to say she never wants to see me again. Aurora's the type to do that sort of thing in person rather than through distant measures. I don't know why, but I thought revoking the membership was like so funny to me. Aurora looks good. They say hi. Aurora tells Malone that she was the only one she wanted to talk to while she was working stuff out in her head, and that she knows what's best for herself. Malone is surprised by this for some reason. Malone brings up Aurora hating her, and Aurora's like, I had to hate you to deal with how much I wanted you.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
No, you hated her for killing your mother, huh? Why are we rewriting history? Aurora says that it was easier to blame Malone than her mother's choices. She says, I'm sorry that I wanted to hurt you, and Malone's like, no, you had every right to hate me. Aurora clarifies that she does not hate her and that she loves her. Aurora says, I might have a problem every once in a while with the whole you killing my mom thing, and also I want to work at the underworld still, but I'm gonna cut back to 4 nights a week. Malone is totally a-okay with all of this. She wants her to be happy, and if keeping her job makes her super happy, then she's all for it. They hug, and Malone says, my only condition is that you communicate with me even if it's like bad. No matter what you're feeling, I want to hear about it. I think I would have some more conditions than that, but again, she isn't me. Thank fuck. I don't want any part of this. Aurora says she'll try. They talk about how they missed each other and they forgive each other. Aurora says she loves her and wants to make it up to her. And we all know what she means, because there's only one solution to anything in this book. And Malone's like, I'm not gonna stop you, and tells her she loves her back. Conclusion! Finally here. This book was something else. Again, I loved the sex scenes. I do think that they're well written, and I would like to tell you why I think they're well written is because they don't use like disgusting euphemisms for genitals. They don't mix like anatomical terms and euphemisms. I kind of get pulled out of it when sex scenes do that. The sex scenes are very varied and there's not a lot of repetitive stuff. Even though some of the acts are the same, I felt that everything was like very different every single time and in a different context. I felt that the kink and the consensual aspects were always great. There was never any moment where I was like, oh my god, that's not consensual, at least during the sex stuff. But there was obviously some other stuff that we were like, uh-oh. I think one of the main problems that I have is this isn't marketed more as erotica. It is in the romance section. That's where I just bought it, regular from the romance section in Books A Million. And I think that's unfortunate because the strongest scenes were the sex scenes. But it was really truly impossible for me to care about these characters, and I kept having questions about the world building and the plot. I really think that this book could have been a 5-star if more care and attention had been put towards everything that wasn't the sex. I still had a really great time though. So I gave this book a 3.25 stars out of 5 on Storygraph. It was amazing again as far as the sex scenes go, but literally everything else was a giant no for me. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Feel free to suggest some books you want me to read. If you've made it this far, leave either a rose emoji or crown emoji, or I guess a dragon emoji in the comments, because Maleficent, Malone, dragon, yeah. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!